可以把最后2句再说一遍？对不起，我没听真。
就是因为不想让对面选到蒙多，然后对面又选到菲欧娜，然后蒙多就可以很肉，打不死。
Okay, so it ended up happening that they ended up choosing Mundo, and then we ended up getting Fiora, and Mundo turned out to be a really tanky champion, and it ended up turning out that way. Yeah.
Well, obviously, coming into this game, there was a lot of build-up around Fnatic, this new team, but it didn't seem to affect you guys. You kind of you powered on. Were you thinking about that? Was that playing in your mind? This new Fnatic team?
就是我刚才给你说的。
就是说我们打 Fnatic 的话，我觉得在赛前我觉得算是5-5开，算这个未知数嘛。但是当打赢的那一刻，觉得特别的兴奋。
Right. So 你赛前没有想太多，对不对？对不起，可不可以再说第一句？我没听真。
就是赛前的话，我们对阵 Fnatic， 我也不知道我们胜率是比较高还是比较低，然后觉得是个未知数嘛。
Right. So we didn't know actually how to think before the game. We didn't know if we would win or lose, but then we ended up really happy at the end because we ended up winning.
Absolutely, I can imagine that. Now, one more game, you get that trophy, and you're on your way to Katowice. Are you thinking about that? Is that playing into your mind at all?
就是你下一场就是总决赛，你赢了就可以去 IEM 卡特维茨。你对这有什么想法？给我们分析一下好吗？
挺希望能拿下这次比赛的冠军嘛，因为更希望与更强的战队在总决赛上交手。
Okay, so we're just hoping we win this tournament, and if we go on to the next one, then we get to face a lot stronger opponents.
Well, I absolutely thank you so much for your time. Well done. I know these guys are very supportive of you. For now, I'm sure the guys over at the desk, led by Choba, are going to break that all down. Back to you guys.
Thank you very much, Sean. And finally, it pays off all that sandbagging from QG, and they get their victory and move on to the finals of the Intel Extreme Max Cologne. A long time coming. But all jokes aside, let's give credit where credit is due. They've definitely brushed some things up. I mean, game 1, we said, all right, pick some bands, look a little better. Still didn't get the win. But then the way they played, and especially in that game 3, they had a lot of good choices to make.
It is looking so different from the games we saw in the first day. QG, even in the series, like in the second game, I was like, okay, they went for the team fight when they had the split push conversation with the Fiora. It worked out. And in this game, they pulled off a wonderful 1-3-1. Avoided the team fights effectively. There was this one point where Fnatic actually managed to get the 5v5 going on during the mid-game, but eventually they got the pressure they needed. They got the inhibitors open, and eventually Fnatic was in this position where they had to go for the Baron because there's super minions knocking at the door of the Nexus.
And Yamato complained in game 2 that they had clear win conditions, kind of avoided those, and QG just won with the brute force team fights. This game, however, as you mentioned, they went for the 1-3-1. They were against Malphite, Orianna, Misfortune. That's all about Wombo. They avoided the Wombo. Okay, some of the decision-making in the late game, teleporting to Baron when they could have got an inhibitor. It could have been cleaner, but they showed that game-on-game improvement. And now 6 games into their IEM Cologne run, they're in the finals, and they're looking better, much, much better than when they started.
I mean, of course, I think Fiora has been like the champion for QG that is doing all the work here, just setting up the split push. And I wonder if we can expect the Fiora ban maybe in the finals. And then, of course, we have to see if a team comes in a tournament with one strategy that works out for them. Some of the teams might even not have prepared a second strategy, so we have to see if they are able to play a different style. Maybe go back to their team fighting and then beat teams at their own game.
Yeah, I mean, to be, of course, fair, like we heard Pyra mention it towards the end, it's a little bit ironic they still won off of a team fight at the end, but maybe that's the benefit. The fact that they are so used to team fighting is that as long as they can split push long enough, they win that one team fight. Who's to complain?
It is to be fair, in this situation, it was kind of all or nothing call from Fnatic. They had 2 inhibitors, and usually when 2 inhibitors are down, I think the win ratio is 98% or something. Right. It's an absurd number. You have to go for a crazy call.
Yeah.
If you're tanking the Nasher, you're going to end up in a position where the enemy team gets the concave. And in a concave, you're not going to get Wombo combo, as we've talked about, and eventually you're going to lose if the enemy team pulls off the right decision.
Yeah, so, I mean, Fnatic had to make that choice, but QG reacted very well, went outside of the Baron pit, and then got the fight they wanted. Before we move on, though, let's talk about Fnatic just a little bit. As commentators were mentioning, this doesn't mean all hope is lost. I mean, Game 1 still looked brilliant, and now that you look at it in hindsight, you got to think, okay, this also is, you could say, maybe an expected result because the lineup is so new.
I mean, yeah, they have 2 or 3 days of practice together, and it would be like a bit too much to demand for them that they just go through this tournament, no problems. I think their communication and how everything worked out was like a sign for like Fnatic fans in 2016 that this team is going to be fine anyway. Once they figure out stuff, communication-wise, there should not be no problem. Shot calling seems to be there, and of course you have like Spirit and Noxiak, the new players are really good mechanical, and yeah, I don't think Fnatic has anything to worry about. It's like, of course, they lost. It's kind of sad, but they have an entire LCS season.
It is like, looking at Fnatic still, it's like, I feel, what I'm excited about is the fact that they're going to be able to play around the bot lane. It's going to be a very, very different Fnatic. And in terms of broad strategy and like the table of competition that is brewing in Europe now and all over the world, I feel like having this diversity is going to be very, very key on the world stage and also in the European LCS.
Yeah, so some things to look forward to for Fnatic, but of course for QG fans, a lot to look forward to for tomorrow as they move on to the finals. If you happen to miss that game or any other moments so far this weekend, don't forget you can download the Score Esports app from the iOS App Store or Google Play to catch up with all the stats, all the news, and all the scores from the matches, and they'll keep you updated on all the action this weekend. We'll be back after a short break with the next match here at the IntelliStream Masters.
G2A.com, the best video game store ever! Fast as lightning, solid as a rock, cheap as duck. What's more, you can sell on it because it's also a marketplace. Remember G2A.com, the best video game store ever!
going up against Ever. There's a lot of hype around this one, too. I think for good reasons. One is that H2K showed a very good performance yesterday with their roster. They showed some fresh looks and some fresh strategies. But on the other side, of course, Ever, a lot of questions looming over that. But let's recap H2K first. Their performance on day one, we were pretty pleased with it on the desk for sure.
I feel like the first game was what I kind of expected from H2K. Good early game and the decision-making faltering into the mid to late game. But eventually, it took them 5 minutes of a break between the games, and all of a sudden the decision-making was there in the mid to late game. And on top of that, I feel like H2K have a clear understanding of the draft, but the exception of not playing Rise, I still think it's pretty solid.
Yeah, okay. What about you, Dexter? How did you view their game?
Yeah, I think overall, if you think about it, Forgiven had like his little like accidents, I think, where it kind of cost him the game, I think, in game one. But overall, H2K looks like really solid, and of course, like pure mechanical raw talent. This is like a really stacked roster, and the decision making after like such sort of practice is like already there, and they're up against a team where Ever, I mean, they beat SKT, of course, and qualified that way. So they have to see. I'm really excited to see how game one works actually, and what teams want to do in the drafting. Of course, we've been emphasizing that drafting is like really important on this patch. And maybe Ever has something that we haven't seen yet this tournament.
Right on. Overall for us, Skurin, I mean, so far, we've had certain games where we're sitting here at the desk and we're like, okay, we're either confused or disappointed about the draft so far from these teams. How would you say, H2K's draft looked, or even just overall, are you disappointed or pleased so far with the drafting of the teams so far here at IEM?
I mean, I think Papa Smithy said it best when he kind of really underlined this idea that we're really getting to see what teams are prioritizing, and it's changing drastically from game to game, from team to team. And he said, we kind of get to play Mythbusters a bit for the new patch coming in. And I think it's kind of indicative of what these teams are prioritizing, what they feel comfortable on.
All right. Yeah. So we'll see, of course. Earlier we saw QG making a lot of big changes coming into day two. But before we move on, let's take a look at exactly what H2K made happen in their victory 2-1 yesterday.
H2K and Cloud9 loaded on up. If H2K take this one early on, I feel like that kind of sends the signal that, hey, these stars are going to beat the Brainiacs of Cloud9. Back pocket as the knockup and the pillar comes in. Balls is going to be first blooded. And High goes in with a flash and the knockup looking for Jankos. Ryu is gonna go down here. Sneaky will be able to pick him off on the backside. Gets Jankos as well. Double kill. Staying alive completely. Sneaky just kiting backwards from Otowane. Balls could be in trouble, but it's 4-on-1. A triple kill to the Lucian. We are getting ready to kick off game number 2 of what has already been a very, very close and explosive series. But in comes Ryu. Still can't find Sneaky. Exhaust is on Rush. Ryu goes down. Sneaky picks the kill. And Jankos is knocked and battered and bruised and taken out. Forgiven doesn't have any more escapes, and neither does Jankos. Down he goes. A double kill for Rush. Can he get the triple? It's Balls that secures it in the end. Jankos goes in, looks for Rush, takes down the kitty cat. Jankos will fall, but so will Sneaky. And now it's going to be Cloud9 melting away. Third game on the line here. There's been a battle of wits and a battle across the lanes. He's knocked away, but he's got a wild growth on him. High will melt, and so will Jensen. Now it's going to be big trouble for Cloud9. They've lost 2 members, and an inhibitor's going down with the Baron buff pushing in. This could be the end of the game here, Papa Smithy.
And you saw just the joy that H2K had in their victory, of course. For one, coming back, beating a brand like C9. But 2, winning kind of on their own terms and proving the fact that, yeah, you know what? We got these new superstars. It's a different H2K, but it's still one that has that potential to meet that success. We talked about the roster yesterday, and I think, anyone who's followed the scene for a little bit is going to see these names and know that, all right, this team isn't messing around. But what do you think they need to change from day 1 to day 2? Because, again, they had to make that comeback. They had to mount something back.
It's very, very hard to call because it's like when you think of decision making, you kind of just have to compare it to the enemy team. The question is it going to pair up against the enemy team that they're facing today? That is a big question because it's like if you compare it to the C9's decision making, it looked very, very solid. But then again, it all depends on the other enemy because it's like a game of chess. Whoever is winning is going to look super good, but you can't really analyze how good it really is.
Yeah, before we move on to that other team, of course, we just saw briefly Forgiven on there. Yesterday, he didn't really have a shining moment, but is that maybe a good thing, Dexter?
It is, because I think especially on SK, Forgiven had probably the weight on him that he has to carry games, and then if he didn't perform up to his level, the team would falter and fall apart. On Gambit, it was kind of the same thing. I think Forgiven played really well on Gambit, but Gambit was like a strong team. Even when they finished 8th and went to relegations, I think the team overall was like a spot for the World's contender, so they were actually really strong. And overall, if Forgiven doesn't even need to play to his level to win games, then what is he gonna do next if he actually plays up to that level?
Yeah, that's
if it
true.
makes sense. Like if he's performing like Forgiven level, I want to see how the team does then, because it helps a lot in like team fights, in skirmishes, and I want to see Lucian. I want to see Forgiven play Lucian here if he gets it actually.
No, I think that's just pretty much the quintessential H2K riddle right now, is they have such a high competitive ceiling that's not just Forgiven, but across that entire, EU super team roster. What do they look like when they are on full power?
Yeah, and Lucian, like you mentioned yesterday, it was very highly prioritized. Taking that away from Forgiven was a big thing for C9, but today maybe it slips through and we get to see what the true power of Forgiven might be here on this team for H2K. But as you were mentioning, Yamato, who's the opponent today? It is going to be that team coming from Korea, Ever, and you may not know too much about them, but let's take a look.
Ever are undoubtedly the dark horse team at IEM Cologne, and this is something that they are particularly used to. Ever have made waves more than once in Korea, the biggest of these being at the 2015 Kesper Cup.
I will do my best for IEM Cologne. Our team can win this event, so we will go to IEM World Championship Katowice.
Even been able to qualify for the LCK, had come from nowhere and made it into the semi-finals of the Kesper Cup.
Now I am very excited. I am looking forward to playing in ESL Studio.
Even world champions SK Telecom T1 fell to them, and not even the inclusion of Faker in Game 2 was enough to stop this rampant Ever team. They may not be well known around the world, but Ever are here to prove themselves in their first international tournament, and their opponents would be wise not to underestimate them.
And there we have it. I mean, Dark Horse really is the best way to describe them, both back in the Kesper Cup and here this weekend at the Intellistream Masters. And Frustrating, you had a chance to take a look at them during the Kesper Cup. I mean, tell us what exactly happened. How were they able to win that whole thing?
So I kind of want to cover two big points with Ever, and the how is their late game shot calling. It's actually really curious. Indicatively, challenger teams typically are really poor with their late game shot calling just because they don't have the experience behind it to, keep themselves together under high pressure situations. But Ever are completely opposite in that they're actually very intelligent, especially with their wording and making the correct calls late, which allows them to beat teams like SKT. But it's not just SKT. Obviously there were conditions to their victory over SKT, but I don't want to take away from Ever's victory at the Kesper Cup. They went through Samsung Galaxy, Anarchy, CJ Entis, and SKT. It's not just one team. They beat 4 LCK teams, and Anarchy looked better than they ever have.
Yeah, I think that's really the big point, is because if you only think about beating SKT, then people are going to think back and be like, well, SKT also lost to Samsung Blue when they came back after their victory the last time at Worlds, and then this year maybe they were also on vacation mode. But right now, you can't make that excuse for the other teams, because the other teams did kind of have to fight for they had a lot working towards them, because this was a tournament kind of built for them, for the teams that didn't get to go to Worlds, and the other teams also couldn't take down Ever. Do you think we're hyping them a little too much, though?
It's like, I think the difficult part about like a team like this, they won a tournament. I think the true test is repeating that same kind of success, simply because they come into that tournament. I don't think a lot of the teams were expecting a lot from them.
Right.
I wouldn't, because if you take a look at the roster, the jungler Ares, he played on Incredible Miracle. He had 1 win out of 16 games, if I remember correctly. And then you have this Key who took the Key. He just simply took the MVP of the entire tournament on his Bard. So these two players came in and did like a lot of work, but I feel like the true test is today.
Yeah, can they do it again now that other teams are kind of aware of their existence and what might be coming? Before we jump into the game, though, we actually have a chance to speak with a member of the Ever team organization over on the main stage with Sean.
Thank you so much, Chobra. I am indeed here, joined by Karamkin. Thank you so much for taking some time to talk to me. Of course, always getting excited here as you're about to get underway. Now, you guys had great success in the Casper Cup. Does that fill you with confidence going into today's matchup, or is that a little bit of pressure?
일단은 자신감 반 그리고 걱정 반이 있고요.
Part of it is gaining confidence, but part of it is also that pressure. I have to admit
부담감을 극복하고
that it comes through, and
좋은 성적을 내기 노력해야 될 것 같아요.
To be able to just overcome that pressure and really work on the confidence part.
Now, international competition this soon after the team has been formed, with potentially a ticket to Katowice on the line, does that faze you guys? Is that something you're thinking about?
일단은 굉장히 좋은 기회라고 생각을 하고요. 그리고
of course it's a great opportunity.
당연히 카토비체를 갈 목표로
our goal is
준비했고요.
to be able to make it to the
아무래도
World
선수들이
Championship in Katowice. And if the players perform the way we prepared, I think Katowice is definitely on the horizon.
Now, being here in Cologne, in the ESL studios where the fans are everywhere running around, what's that like for you and the players, feeling that intensity that's here, being in part of the IEM Cologne?
일단 저희에게는 굉장히 새로운 기회였고요, 경험이었고요.
To us,
정말
it's a very new experience for sure.
이런 기회를 준 ESL 측에 정말 고맙고요.
We're very thankful that we have this opportunity through ESL. And now I think it's time for us to return that favor by playing really great games.
Well, we hope you do play an absolutely great game, because that's what we're all looking for here. So first off, thank you again, Karamkin, for taking the time to talk to me. And of course, we'll head right back over to you, Chobra Commander. You guys will have lots to discuss.
All right, so the head coach of Ever, Garam Kim, saying that, if they play the way we prepared, we should be able to maybe even get that ticket to Katowice. So, oftentimes when you hear from Dark Horse teams, they're like, oh, well, you know what, sure, we won one tournament, but we're still just taking it one game at a time. But they're coming in saying, if we play our best, Katowice is an option. Winning this tournament is an option.
I mean, look at what teams they beat at the Casper Cup. It would be stupid almost to not think that they will win this tournament, because probably they have a lot of confidence riding on their back after this Casper Cup. If they've practiced all the way until this moment, then I think they have a really good shot at actually doing this.
Yeah, and it would be quite a story, of course, if they're able to repeat that success. One domestically against what most would say are some of the best teams in the world, just because it is from Korea, from that LCK region. But then to perform against these other teams, and an H2K, again, newly formed with superstars. And they performed well against C9. Now that we have a bit of a comparison to put together, how do you think H2K is feeling? I mean, do you think they're worried about anything in particular? Maybe, Kian as Bard, of course, probably going to be banned out. But aside from that, aside from the really obvious points, do you think H2K also just wants to play their own game and see how they fare?
And it's let's start off with the Bard, because I have a set opinion about Bard. Because there's two approaches you can have towards a champion that the enemy will almost guarantee pick. You can either find a way to beat it or you ban it, right? And the way to beat Bard, I feel, is the champion called Leona. Because Bard has this kind of tendency about him where he kind of has this lane phase that is very similar to Nami, Sona. He has the sustenance, good poke, and of course his roaming ability is very, very strong. That is what separates Bard from these other two I mentioned. And what is good against these two other champions that I mentioned? Leona. And Vander has shown in the past that he has played Leona, so that is a possibility there.
I mean, do you think it's a big enough possibility that you leave the Bard open, though? Because when players they're good at Bard, they're really good at Bard.
I mean, even if you leave the Bard open, not to take away from Key, because he's a fantastic Bard player, probably the best Bard that we've seen on the competitive stage so far. But I really want to talk and kind of underline Athena, the mid laner forever. Okay. This guy, I mean, we've listed the LCK teams that Ever has managed to beat to win the Casper Cup, but just break down those mid laners. That's Mickey, a fantastic mid laner from the LCK. That's Coco, probably one of the best mid laners in the world. That's Scout, Faker, and now Ryu's kind of the next test. And this guy has already proven that he's gone through the best of the best. And you talk about Key, you talk about Ares, you talk about Crazy. Athena is really good, and I think he's an overlooked threat.
Yeah, I mean, generally, if you've beaten Faker, I don't think you're worried about Ryu at all, but we'll have to wait and find out. Earlier, of course, before we jump right into the picks and bans, we saw that fans actually still gave 32% of their votes over to Ever, a higher vote than QG got earlier in the day, so some confidence in this Korean team coming out. But there we go, the Bard actually being banned out by Ever themselves.
I think it's the easier, like the Leona thing, I think it was like a massive whiff I was going on with, but I think you have this room to put up the target bans on the blue side, and on the red side, of course, you also have the room to squeeze in that ban for Bard.
Yeah, so H2K taking out that Bard right away first thing. And
Oh, wow. Ooh. Well, first, before we even touch on the new champion, just look at the bans. Like, we talked about, what was Ever going to bring out something more that we kind of expected from the tournament. This looks much more solid and kind of what we expect of just the general OP champions. Lulu's not getting through, Gangplank's respected, Trundle's respected, and then target bans across from H2K.
So yeah, Cassian, of course, the one champion that is blue side banned here, which tells me that H2K maybe wants to go for like a Victor or something, like a safe blind pick mid lane that they don't have to care about anything.
I feel like the trend might be like similar to what they did yesterday, was when they blind picked the Anivia, which was the go-to blind pick for Ryu.
Yeah.
He got counted by the Kassadin and they eventually lost that game.
Yeah, he did have a very rough game in that first one, but they are just going to pick up the Alistar.
Alistar first pick. I'm not sure if...
with Mundo, with Elise, with Kindred, with all these power picks on the board, the fact that, again, we're seeing an Alistar prioritized.
I'm not a big fan of the Alistar first pick because it already locks you into like the support matchup. I mean, sure, Alistar's like a okay choice, but they're like better choices. Of course, Mundo being one of them. We have seen what Mundo can do, that he's actually not being able... You can't kill him. At a certain stage of the game, you cannot kill Mundo anymore. And I wouldn't be... Also, Lissandra. Lissandra has been banned in like most of the games we have seen so far, but we actually haven't seen like a really good Lissandra yet. And Lissandra is, of course, there's like the dual flexibility here, which gives Evan, of course, a really good strategic edge right now.
And it's important to note that both Crazy and Athena have shown this champion, so it actually can be flexed between both of them.
Yeah, that's definitely an important note. Now, with the Alistar, does it perhaps by any chance kind of show that maybe they want to toy with the Misfortune now that Trundle is out?
I think, in my opinion, I feel like they should opt in for the Lucian and also go for the jungle pick
right here,
just to hold onto their cards in the solo lanes for as long as possible. Just pick up the Lucian.
Kindred would be really good here.
Yeah.
Kindred is kind of like has a really good matchup into Mundo because she's ranged, and the way her stack works, like the ability to stack up things, she does more and more damage more as she stacks it up. Plus, she's like kind of soft counter to like Lissandra because of the AoE and ultimate, and you can just save a target from being bursted down.
I mean, really, the idea is if you have more options to kite Mundo and burn him down, that's the only way to deal with him.
Yeah, you're not going to win face on.
Lucian being locked in, Rek'Sai a bit... I mean, okay. Probably wants a bit more early pressure. Maybe focus on like mid lane with like a Blanc or something, what they set up here.
It's not a Nidalee at least.
It's on a Nidalee?
It's like,
that's true.
Nidalee has been picked 9 times in 9 games in this tournament. I just want to buy a Nidalee plushie and burn it to the ground. That's how I feel about it now. But thinking about Rek'Sai as a champion, I feel like he's decent into every matchup. So it's like, I'm always okay with Rek'Sai.
It's a safe pick.
It's safe because you can always choose your battles with the tremor senses. You can back off, and you're very mobile on the map. That Jankos has proven in the past that he can use of very efficiently.
Look at this, man. It's like, they still flex everything. It's like...
Yeah, I mean, other than Callista, you kind of still have no idea.
You have no idea what... They can still go into, like, everything. They can even last pick a Kindred to see if their comp allows it. Shen support being okay. Put them in the jungle, Shen top lane, pick another support. It's...
Holy cow.
Everything is open, man. This is, like, next level.
And this is a strength of Ever. I mean, the big thing is that they came into the new patch for the Caspa Cup and they showed the best dominance over it. Probably CJ Intis was probably the next team, which, of course, those were your 2 finalists. But the issue with, the Tigers, KT, Rolster, and SKT is they looked like they were paying 5.16 on 5.18. And it's nice to see that Ever have continued this prep. So it tells me that their support structure actually is fairly strong. They do have a gaming house. Obviously, they lost to Spinu, unable to qualify for LCK, but they got a lot of sponsorship after that. And it looks like it's done work for them because their draft looks great right now.
I mean, this is like...
H2K needs to pick Fiora, I guess. I think they should opt in for the Fiora here because it has a guaranteed good matchup into anything that is sent into top lane. With the Rumble in the picture, if you send the Shen top lane now, it's so easy to pressure the Rumble into the ground.
They can still last pick Renekton technically if Fiora would be locked in, but she isn't. But I'm just saying it's like so many options for Ever right now that...
But to be fair, it's like Fiora does pretty well into most matchups. There is no like hard counters, but it is a very, very safe blind pick, which this tournament has shown.
I was about to get super excited about the Varus. I personally love Varus showing up, but are we going to see that? You know, the option's still open, but like you guys said, I mean, the point here is that Ever can do whatever they want with this 5th pick and still make something out of it. Like, they could really just random and they would still be able to make something out of their composition, just given the flexibility in their first 3 picks. Over the other side, Victor also coming out just kind of as a staple return so far in this tournament.
Yeah, I don't think after the game that Ryu had yesterday on Anivia, I don't think he feels too confident on it. Because I think that was his worst performance. And then you compare it to his other 2 games, which were insane in comparison.
And there we have it. The Varus gets locked in. What do you guys think about Ever and the way they chose their picks then, and then rounding it out with Varus?
This is like one of the most intelligent drafts I've seen.
Yeah.
Like, this is probably like the champion selection. If you can see, they don't do the mistake of drafting themselves into a situation where they pick champions for the top lane already. They keep flexing through like the whole draft until like the last pick, and it's like one of the most intelligent drafts that you can do probably on this patch right now.
It's also a very well-balanced composition in terms of where their power spikes are hitting and kind of the tools that they have on it. You have poke, you have hard engage, you have late game scaling, objective control, vision control with Callista sprites, and global ultimates with Shin having that stand united as well as a teleport in the top lane.
Yeah, this is going to be a very interesting first look this weekend for Ever. Can they get the lead against H2K? So far, the picks say they should be able to. We'll find out as we go into game number 1.
Yes, hello ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to IEM Cologne. It is the second semi-final ever going up against H2K. Thank you for joining us yet again. My name is Uber, and I'm here with a man who I've watched for quite some years, even before getting into casting, Papa Smithy. An absolute pleasure to have you with me tonight.
Yeah, 2 Australian casters that have never quite got onto the same casting desk together, casting what is going to be a cracker ever. This instantly, just from picks and bans, have just put together the smartest pick and ban we've seen on the preseason patch so far. And this shouldn't come as a surprise. This is a team that went to the Kesper Cup. Okay, some of those big names like the SKT might have been on vacation mode, but Ever was playing patch 521 far superior than to any other team at the tournament. Now coming into patch 523, this is the team that locked in their spot at IEM Cologne first, and just from that first draft, seems like they've been doing plenty of practice so far.
Flex pick central for Ever, and they really managed to maneuver their way through that process well, but now, obviously, they maneuver through a different challenge. We are onto the Rift, ladies and gentlemen, for game number 1. On the red side, it's going to be Ever, and on the blue, it will be H2K. It'll be interesting to see how they sort of react, because this looks like a little bit of a grouping here for Ever, maybe just Papa for some early vision.
Yeah, level 1s have been predictably fairly defensive this tournament as we're waiting for level 1 strategies to develop. Wow, areas with the auto attack cancel that's granted by VE actually cancels out the defensive vision. You have to be so quick with your deep vision now that the game starts 15 seconds earlier. So hard to have both defensive and offensive vision. Plenty of offensive vision here. We're seeing the backs, though. Be super interesting to see whether a lane swap is gotten or if we see standard lanes here.
Well, H2K pinging down towards those wards, so they know Ever have forged forward and dropped some vision there so they can have a bit of early warning about any potential lane swap scenarios. It seems as if they would like to keep things as standard as possible, or at least be able to read into it. So there you go. Forgiven and Vander hugging the wall, still spotted out in that lane swap. You can see instantly on the mini-map, ESC's bot lane are moving towards the top side.
You can see they're looking for the 2v2. That's what they're trying to opt into here. Uniquely, Kalista as a champion with the passive is able to dodge Piercing Light from Lucian. Most champions can't deal with the harass coming through there, but can do that. And now Ever's going to have a lot of power on the top side. You can see 5 champions on the top side. Going to be late to have Lissandra hit lane, but they're going to get the 2v2 that whole level 1 was orchestrated to set up.
Exactly, and we'll see them move towards lane and probably won't miss out on too much experience here, though, as Vander already checking to see if anyone was going to be there to greet him, and it is Key and Loken there. Of course, Key of Zenix Storm way back, played in the LSPL for a little bit as well before returning to Korea on that Shen support. And Crazy as well makes his way down bot.
Zenix Storm's one of those names you just have to whisper to long-term Korean viewers, and they all think about what could have been. So many great players, like the likes of Peekaboo, have passed through the Zenix Storm organization. They never fielded that 5-man lineup that could have been, but they put together some great players, and as you mentioned, another one on the Rift here.
Yeah, many distinguished players actually coming out of that lineup. And of course, Key looking to make himself one of those now. It's already been a back and forth in the mid lane, and Athena finding he's losing out on that trait there as Ryu doesn't seem to be afraid to deal with this sort of mid-Varus coming out from Athena. It was that last pick as well. And I know Papa, I guess, maybe trying to put some pressure onto that Victor. We saw the picks from H2K, though. They all had to be pretty safe with so many flexes coming in.
The safety is going to be identified here. Waiting to see if Jankos will go for a turret dive. Thinking about it.
He's looking a little bit low here as well. Completely none the wiser to Jankos just sitting off here to the side, and Ryu just maybe hoping Athena just gets a little bit more forward, gets a little bit more cocky, but Jankos is going to go in anyway. The Praise Seeker, the flash, the Unburrow, it's all there, and one more order will get it done. First blood to Ryu.
Really nice, assertive move from Jankos. You could see the reason why Athena opted into those early trades that he's gone for regen from level 1. He went for that corrupting potion, tried to take advantage of it by getting those early trades and then healing through. Of course, did not factor in the creative pathing you can do. Jankos showed it. They got the kill. Good smart flash for the auto attack from Ryu. And now on the back foot already. Both summoners down for the Varus.
H2K showing sufficient disdain for the picks from Ever, especially that Varus in mid, and Loken as well fancies a little bit of damage coming forward, as well as Key just flanks up on that side. So hard to always get that damage to stick towards his bottom lane combo here. This is one of the few games that, well, in fact, the first, this weekend that Forgiven's actually not played Tristana.
Exactly, he's been on Tristana Jude. He's definitely been prioritizing structure, Cologne. You know, every series we've had so far, this is the 4th series of IEM Cologne, has kind of had a different theme. And the theme for the H2K Cloud9 series was prioritizing structures over KDA, over anything else for Forgiven. You know, showing more of a Gambit playstyle than, of course, his heyday in SK, where he was the true high KDA, hyper carry, 80 carry. And in general, Ever's kind of showing us why lane swaps have kind of been a head scratcher, just because they invested so much in getting that early aggressive vision. 2 of their members got to lane late. They lost out on experience in both top and bottom lane, and now they've been preyed upon in mid. So theoretically, 4 out of 5 of their champions off the bat 5 minutes in, okay, maybe only by inches, are behind.
We'll to see just how far behind it is, or how that translates as we move through into what is a much early game, mid-game, should I say, now as we do continue through. I mean, looking across the board here, no notable CS differences, really, with the exception, I guess, of Ryu, with just that time he spent alone in lane to get slightly ahead of Athena.
Yeah, we won't talk too much about 4 or 5 CS. In the mid-game, okay, let's wait for some item completions. Getting ahead of yourself, Uber, let's just calm down. There's
Standard
been some
for
action.
me, bro. Standard for me. It has been said that Oduamne, you know, he's one of those guys that has still definitely preferred to go for that Rumble here as well, hoping a safer pick in this lane will give him an easier passage. But look at this, Ring of Frost coming out as well. He flashes the cleaver. He may not be able to get away yet, though, of course. The slow got to be coming into effect, and there's the cleaver hitting Oduamne, just struggling to get away from this one. He does able to pop the junk shield, moving forward. Ares, though, will just continue to chunk him down, and it's 1-on-1. Successful game for Ares.
And Ares is certainly the feel-good story of this Ever lineup. It was alluded to by Yamato. 1-14 was his record on IEM. In fact, he opened up the Kesper Cup playing Kindred, and one of the first Kindreds we saw in competitive. He looked pretty awful, if I'm going to be honest, Uber. He certainly was off the boil, but he got better and better over the tournament. His shot calling really shone through in that victory over SKT. And now he's making early aggression from Mundo work, whereas we've seen from the likes of Rush, much more of a passive early game from this Dr. Mundo that we know can scale up so immensely strong in the late game.
You can see he wasn't willing to leave that lane without that kill, burning his flash, but landing that second crucial cleaver. Still, these lanes are proceeding in as about a normal fashion as possible, I guess, in a game like this. See as well that we will have Ares returning to the jungle, but Jankos is a little bit forward as well. But here, of course, in this top bottom lane, as we'll call it, very much back and forth, but Forgiven's better to eke himself a small lead.
Top bottom lane, come on, mate. This is the Australian man. Bottom lane's on the top.
We're upside down.
We've got it all upside down. That's a shout out to us because they have no idea we're casting this game, but we can take it anyway.
Oh dear. People do ask me how I deal with all the blood rushing to my head when I go home.
And Athena, he's thrown us a curveball. We haven't seen any. I mean, we talked about League of Legends Mythbusters. Everybody's got a pocket pick that they think's strong in the preseason. I know for me it was the Sion. I was like, all right, Sion's got it. No one can kill him. Varus is not one that I've heard brought up in conversation just because his itemization, particularly in the mid lane, it was all about very quickly reaching your power spike. It was Mana Moon into Brutalizer into Last Whisper. It was 3 items and then, man, your poke hits for so much. But Last Whisper is mostly gone as crazy, posturing towards mid. Remember, Ryu just used his cleanse, so we could see a turret dive coming in shortly.
Aggressive positioning as well, especially with Ares off to the other side. The Jankos is on the scene relatively quickly there. Maybe not aware of Crazy's presence, but will still be taking away that camp. And this is some roaming happening from Crazy. He's going to return back to lane now as well. A bit of attention being put towards Ryu, you can see in the early stages. There's recalls in the top lane as well. Forgiven and Vander, he's going to back off.
Yeah, remain to be convinced about the Varus itemization. Maybe we'll see something different. Just, think of the 80 items added to the game, and certainly not Essence Reaver, just because you're not really going to be building critical strike or attack speed necessarily specifically on mid Varus. Maybe we'll see something different, but that's certainly not been the way usually. With the tier, he's already committed to spending a lot of early gold on mana, so not needing to rush for the Essence Reaver. So is this just going to be a weaker overall item build because of the patch change for the Varus?
And of course, picking up that tier does delay that power spike if you're looking forward to it. You're not getting any of those hard-hitting stats that are really going to give you that extra kill potential. So, still question marks over this pick pupper. We have sort of been talking about it here, and Athena actually finding himself now slipping a little bit further and further behind in that mid lane, but maybe a blue buff to help him with that farm.
I mean, the one thing you can say, both these champions, immense line wave clear, whether it's the E coming through from Varus or the Q coming through, the E coming through from Ryu on the Victor or the Q coming through from Varus. Instant wave clear or near to that from a long range. Varus trying something different. He started off soloing this dragon, gonna get a little bit of help from Key. We have seen next to no prioritization on Jacob just because you don't want to swap anything for it, but only the support's time being swapped for it, and fairly free dragons, so you'll take it, even at 9 minutes.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, prioritization hasn't been big for that one. You can see Crazy just having to be a little bit careful there in that top lane as he is dealing with that 1v2. Interesting to see. We actually have had our Evers, AD carrying support, move towards the bottom side here as well. And Odoamne scratching his head a little bit about this one. He's going to throw an equalizer down, probably just a wave clear, but he's caught by the Shadow Dash. Ares gets the cleaver in as well, and Odoamne, he's dead to rights. 3 Ever players surround him and take him out. And look at this, Stand United towards the top lane as well. Crazy, what's going to happen here? Key going forward, Jankos gets frozen, Tombs, but there, Key pushing forward, Forgiven's there. Vander, you see Key just at the front, but the rest of his team was not there with him. And it's just going to be the 1 kill going over to Ever.
And that was the one thing we didn't mention about that Kesper Cup run. This team runs double teleport like few I have seen. The coordination they have between members is spot on, and the Shen ult into instant teleport bought them basically a free objective. They got the kill. Now in the bottom lane, they're going to at worst trade turrets. There's so much wave clear coming through from Crazy that this turret's going to be delayed, if anything. Very nice global movement coming through from Ever.
So H2K can't capitalize on 3 members of Ever being in the bottom lane when Stand United is available. Of course, if the push comes to shove, Key could make a presence in that top lane now. Back to mid again, and still that Varus has to play it slow. He has to deal with falling behind. Ryu is going to be amassing himself some farm, and now thought about going looking for something up there, but it will be Key heading back home.
I mean, the thing that was posed for Athena was that he understood he was going to be largely isolated in the mid lane in a 1v1 against Victor, so he needed comparable wave clear. You might be thinking, all right, why not just go for the Caston for the kill pressure? But you look down this lineup, the wave clear, it's decent from the Sandra, but otherwise it's fairly absent, so he wanted to just go for the wave clear. He understood that if anything went wrong, he might fall slightly behind, but he's not taking a turret pressure. Usually Victor will clear a wave, then either roam or get auto attacks onto the turrets freely. In this situation, turrets at full health, so he's doing his job despite the fact that it doesn't look like he's covering himself in any glory so far in the mid lane.
Yeah, I mean, and conversely, Papa, it looks like Ryu hasn't really been able to stray too far from that mid lane, not even too far forward even. Going for those Raptors there and return back towards that mid lane and continue doing his thing. And it's Jankos now on site. There's a pink ward in the bush, so for the most part, when you thought about it, you thought about going from that Raptor pit. We can see pings there coming from Ever. They did see him there. And still, right now, he is undetected in that bush. Ares, already alerted to his presence, is going to make his way down, ward straight in. Cleaver misses at a non-moving target, but we won't hold that against him. He did spot out Jankos, though, and we'll have to back up.
Yeah, multiple members around mid lane. Remember the Tremor Sense there as well. Might see the flash.
Fair enough, maybe, for him thinking he, with all the H2K people in that middle lane, he does get the flash away. Ares making his way down as well, and Odo and Forgiven actually just going to be linking up here in the bottom lane and the culling to force Crazy right on back glacial path to ensure the safe escape.
And the structure game continues. This has been the H2K trademark. They're going to keep pushing in aggressively. Crazy still has ultimate.
Very aggressive stuff here. The Pulverize coming out from Vander. The tower beating down on them, and that's a frozen tomb for Crazy. He's going to keep himself alive and flash under that turret. Perfect stuff from him, avoiding that dive. And a fair bit of damage going towards Vander in the process. Forgiven does get his turret.
Insane that he didn't die there. Aerospace checks Ryu.
Yeah, Ryu are going to have to deal with him. Does lock him up in that gravity field as well and gives him all the time he needs to back off. We see Void Rush as well from Jankos there, just in case he was needed. And in the meantime, Loken beating away at this top outer turret in the mid. A fight going to go down here. Athena is caught as well. A headbutt back towards the tower. Athena getting hit by those shots. There's too much damage for him to deal with. He's just a Varus. And now Key going to get knocked up by Jankos. He's pushing forward. The Barrow has been able to yield a bit of CC, but Key just limps away.
And it's one of the reasons why we saw Varus drop out of the meta, as this champion is so susceptible to getting flashed on by the likes of the Alistair. Really nice engage from Vander. We saw Taunt Flash earlier picking up kill for Key. Vander following in the footsteps of Key. Really nice pick. The wave clears down, but the health on the turret is still high enough that they don't lose that structure just yet.
And you know that's what H2K are wanting to go for here. So far, it's been tit for tat in terms of those towers. 2 apiece here, and a negligible gold difference, of course. Only Ever just sneaking that dragon out a little bit earlier on. So maybe starting to hit that critical mass. 13 minutes is what we talked about, is when that mid-game started to come around the corner now, and these two teams starting to display a proclivity for wanting to find each other, create picks, and actually start to push down these towers.
Only a small gold lead, but you can tell there's a big mismatch in terms of gold between Ryu and Athena. 30 CS and 2 kills. Looking at the values here, over 1,000 gold. More than the gold lead in the pocket of Ryu. Of course, if Athena just has to sit back and wave clear, it's not as big a factor, but if team fights come through, this Victor's certainly a lot bigger.
Vander misses the headbutt there, does get the Pulverize after being Shadow Dashed, and it is going to force ESC back. It's a culling for Forgiven, and there's the Unburrow, but Loken, nice Fate's call there as well, will get Key out of danger.
Backup wave clear available if they have Lissandra rotate to mid. So no picks coming through yet for H2K. With the Serrated Blade, it looks like the 180 item that we skipped out discussing, the Ghost Blade, still going to be very strong. This was always a Varus item. It's going to come earlier because of the item changes. The pushing continues, but with the backup wave clear, things should be okay for Ever in the mid lane.
You can see that Ever are dealing fairly well with the waves pushing in towards them. Jankos going fairly deep there as well, just for some vision, if I'm not mistaken. Pops a ward down, but Ares will be able to spot that out and clear it out. Very active, Jankos has been, of course, trying to use the ability to come from those different angles, but to see if he can remain relevant, of course, as that Mundo is going to get out of control as the game goes later.
Yeah, the S word, and in this case, scaling is the big question mark. Rek'Sai, so much early pressure, used, of course, for the level 3 game. They got this snowball for EU, but they need to turn that snowball into permanent gold, whether that's outer turrets, inner turrets, breaking the base. Eventually, this Mundo will snowball out of control, and it's on the Rek'Sai. The onus is completely on Rek'Sai to take control of the game pre-25, 30 minutes, pre-2 health items and level 11 for Ares. Otherwise, Mundo, we've already seen plenty of previews of what this late game could look like forever.
That's right, becoming that indomitable force later on in the piece, and H2K looking to maybe cut things to the quick before that even becomes an eventuality, but Ares again, just got a cheeky cleaver in towards Jankos and a Shadow Dash over by Key, looking for that pink ward as well, and you can see ESC respecting and prioritizing this vision, especially around this dragon area. Maybe even thinking of going for another one here as well. More of an inclination for Dragon than we've really seen yet this weekend.
Ever have some insane options when Crazy's teleports out. Remember, they have double teleport versus single, so 1-3-1 is a consideration. Lissandra's one of the strongest champions to get a home guard teleport flank on, because of course you have point-and-click suppression CC, or I guess, just stun CC coming through from the ultimate. Shen can also ult on top of the Lissandra for more of a CC initiation. Okay, it's only once every 5 minutes, but Ever's just concerned about keeping things even and then going to 1-3-1 consistently. And this was a strategy that brought them so much dividends in the Castle Cup.
It'll be that second dragon now being taken away by ESC. They were visible to H2K there as well, but Europeans in no position to really contest that one. But now, of course, in response, they move towards the middle. That outer turret still needs to be taken down. Ares might be a little bit caught here as well, but he's going to be able to pop that ultimate and get away. Health coming back towards him as the Chaos Storm does go down. There's Vander. He's getting the brawl as well. Headbutting Loken out of the way. And Athena now coming forward with that piercing arrow. H2K maybe realising they're biting off more than they can chew.
H2K, they're sticking to the script that they wrote yesterday. They are not interested in fighting for first or second dragons. They will take a turret over dragon to the extent that they swapped Forgiven to top lane when dragon was up just to get turret pressure. So very big credit to Ever for navigating that situation, not giving up a pick and not losing their outer turret. They got the dragon for free, but that's the reality of patch 523, is that you only ever take free dragons, because structure for dragon, given how short the games are on average, always seems to be advantage to structure taker. So it would have been advantage H2K, if not for the emergency posturing from Ever.
Of course, weighing up the risk-reward profile between getting caught in that small area and actually coming away with the dragon. So ESC do get their second here as well. It's been a while since we've actually seen a turret taken down. These two teams keeping in step with one another across the map. Both of them trying to forge for some bit of deeper vision here. And you can see some of those wards now timing a little bit. There's a lot, of course, those red wards on that river.
Surprising to see Ares is forced to go for team itemization. Aegis has been hit multiple times. Now it's less and less effective, both at this stage and completed for the wearer especially. No Spirit Visage means that Mundo's timer for being quite that Dr. Mundo we've seen in other games is going to continue to be delayed. Of course, it's against double AP, so it's very understandable, but still, Mundo's online timing, now we're talking more about 28-30 minutes rather than necessarily Spirit Visage into Giant Spell where Mundo's already crazy.
Well, the pace of this game is anything to go by with only 4 kills after 18 minutes. We may just get there. So gold leads all very similar as well. So teleporting towards the mid lane here as well, seeing that one being used by Athena. Might be a fight happening. Crazy goes forward. Ring of Frost towards Ryu. But there comes the Chaos Storm in response. A quick Frozen 2 to keep Crazy alive, and Key found himself a little bit deeper than he would have liked. It's the Carling coming across that fight. But Ares, he's soaking up all that damage and he's quite happy to dust his shoulders off. Crazy avoids the damage coming from that equalizer here. But Ever having to back up a lot. H2K looking confident coming forward. Now going to get that mid outer turret.
You can see that Athena has to be so defensive in his position whenever Vander walks up. Vander's falling low, but still has ultimate. Will we see a fight here? H2K got what they wanted. Smart of them just to back away.
Yeah, but might now make them pay for this one. Gravity field being used, and it will at least be able to stun up Ares, who is being an absolute threat with those cleavers constantly coming in, forcing that ultimate out of Vander just in case. And it might be a responsive tower take here forever. They managed to give enough ground without getting too low or losing really too many people, or anyone for that matter. And we'll have one back in response.
Despite some small positioning mistakes, don't force Crazy's teleport out. Don't force anything else. End up with an overall trade and no other advantage. So Ever will take that. And just the reality of having double teleport and a Dr. Mundo. The longer this game goes even, the more likely that Ever will scale into an advantage that is just dictated both by the global summoners and the Dr. Mundo jungle.
Set your watches, ladies and gentlemen, or clocks if you don't wear. And we're one of those, as we are now almost up towards 20 minutes in this game, and it has been tit for tat with those turrets, and the gold lead hasn't shown any sign of really increasing. We did highlight, of course, a gold difference between Rio and Athena, and that probably hasn't, sort of been rectified if you're ESC at this point. But, of course, overall, Ever looking like they are coming up with the tools, so they do understand how to respond to what H2K are doing. Where does the deadlock really break here, Papa? Is it, a team extending too far for that tower, or, I feel like we're building up to something here as well, but it's very much dipping toes in the water at this stage.
What can H2K force? They're already behind 2 dragons. The reality of them taking the next 5 and winning from that, not really there. So that's, again, another reason why Ever can just sit back and wave clear from range. Baron, just spawning, is an objective that Ever would have to fight for, but Ever's slowly creeping towards the point where they can do that. So the question is, how does H2K push their advantage? It's usually going to be, if we're following previous load, it's going to be Lucian looking for turrets. Of course, that was usually Forgiven on Tristana, but he's on Lucian this game. They need to start pressuring things, because if Ever's just getting uncontested blue buffs, clearing waves, it's just buying time for the inevitable.
Definitely, ostensibly, doesn't seem like Ever are being put under too much pressure here. And, there's Dragon. The Dragon counter there. 2, of course, right now for ESC. That's the Sleeping Lion. If they can get closer towards that
maybe he was a Sleeping Lion on the previous patches. He's really in a coma on this patch. The Dragon, do not worry about that number. Probably not going to go low. We see a flash.
Jankos going to be able to burrow away from that one, but Aries keeping in step with him, and Crazy's already gone so darn deep. It was a Ring of Frost, and there's a Frozen 2 towards Jankos. They've got the pick. ESC want to follow up on this one. Logan went quite low there to Ryu, doing damage to him on the side, and they trade the 1v1. Key went down. Crazy backing away there as well. Aries with the front. I don't really know if ever we're going to find too much more here. The 1-for-1 for now. And these teams now just skirmishing a little bit back and forth in mid. That's the culling coming out. Forgiven wants to spread some damage. Oh, look at that one. Oduamne is caught by the Ring of Frost, and Athena dispatches him summarily.
Big mistake for HK to keep fighting. Remember, this is a Rumble top lane. Their only tank died first. That's Jankos. Vander's ultimate was down. No front line against all the poke and the double AD damage coming through from the Varus and Kalista. That is not the time to fight. Jankos has to be so smart with how he positions in fights, because he is truly the only front line for H2K once Vander's ultimate is down.
Now ESC can batter on towards his middle inner turret here. Forgiven, just trying to keep them at arm's length really, but a lot of damage is going to be done here for ESC, and I'll be very happy with that one. And as you said, perhaps the Dragon not really a consideration here, but maybe H2K are going to die by the same sword that they live. This aggression that they're bringing has now been turned on them for the second time in a row.
Looking for third Dragon at 22 minutes. That would be by far the fastest 3-Dragon stack. Remember, we've seen games where 90 minutes is the first Dragon that's taken. Jankos thinking about contesting. Remember, this is against Kalista, so realistically not going to be able to pick it up. Third Dragon means, again, we'll only whisper it, still the Coma Dragon, but still, it is an outside possibility that a 5th Dragon win condition might exist, even on patch 523.
Seems like Ever are happy to, try and apply pressure in whatever way that they can, aside from just trying to barrel their way in towards H2K side of the map there. Third Dragon for them here again. Maybe not the most notable thing at this stage, but what we're more looking towards is how the behaviour of H2K has sort of been a consistent thing here. Coming forward, going for these fights, sort of trying to back away, and then ESC saying, well, all right, I'm going to send a cleaver your way, and then we're going to see what we can sort of carve out of you in response. And, I mean, bit by bit, it doesn't seem like much. This gold difference is still essentially the same. So on paper, it doesn't look like a big lead, but almost it's a qualitative thing that we're seeing here.
I mean, the thing that HK need to do is to find a way to flank specifically Athena. One of the reasons they chose Varus last pick, because you look down HK's lineup, there's no Malphite, there's no true hard engage. Their top lane is Rumble, who can control space with his ultimate and do damage, but again, it's going to be causing any sort of initiation. Unless they can get some flank wards, if Athena can just freely queue from distance, remember, this is a patch where outer turrets are much weaker. In general, turrets are effectively paper thin, so double AD against turrets, they chunk one person out, take a turret, rinse and repeat. Ever catches Jankos.
Yeah, goes Void Rushes straight away, goes into that one. He didn't know what he was going to be going towards, but Logan's going to be there to meet him on the other side of the wall, and Jankos gets picked off there as well, and ESC going to be happy to force the 5v4 here. A little bit of damage from Ryu, warning shots perhaps towards Aries, and ESC now just going to set up here as well and towards his mid side.
Just a mistake from Jankos. Didn't have the defensive vision. Just didn't anticipate that anyone else was around. Logan taking a lot of damage from the culling, but Jankos cannot afford to use his ult quite that aggressively.
And again, that front liner for H2K is down. And now Crazy as well, feeling comfortable enough just to build away at this top turret as well. While all this is happening, of course, while everyone starts to just back away, as I assume Crazy will do, will he be caught? I doubt it. Let's talk about Forgiven, Papa, as well, because he started to carve out a decent amount of farm. I mean, the CS lead is big for him, obviously down 2 kills, but what are your thoughts on how his role is going to be sort of, changing, or maybe how it's going to show itself in the next 10 or so minutes?
I mean, with the new itemization, you can't pigeonhole Lucian into any sort of early or mid-game AD carry. This is a champion that scales fantastically throughout the game, good at taking out turrets, very good in skirmishes and good in team fights. So he's gone largely uninterrupted, but this isn't ideal for a champion that does function somewhat as a lane bully, to have not picked up any kill consideration. Even though he's 60 CS ahead, I imagine the gold between the two AD carries is pretty comparable.
Similar indeed. So Forgiven definitely be looking to try and draw some blood in a meaningful manner in the coming minutes. It's a bit of house cleaning here for ESC as they do start to clear things around this Baron side. So maybe some focus being shifted in terms of where on the map they're wanting to try and dominate. Jankos there as well has to be careful. He's taking away that Gromp here. Kia as well is heading up towards the top of that map. He might have a catch here as well. Jankos yet again in his own jungle being harassed. And Oduamne's presence off towards the side will at least dish away further aggression.
And look, 2 teleports are up, so what are we seeing? 1-3-1 is the name of the game. In this patch, mages now do more damage to turrets just because of the changes that Riot put through in 5.22, so even better at split pushing than before. Don't need the Lich Bane to be able to put out respectable damage to turrets, and ever playing the percentage game, they've got double teleport. The onus is on H2K to make initiations, and we just already discussed it. They don't really have the best tools to do so. So the pressure game continues. Okay, maybe Ever doesn't break a turret, but it buys time. It keeps going, it keeps ticking. And whether it's Dragon win conditions, whether it's more items onto the Mundo, everything is happy reading if you're an Ever fan, if nothing changes in terms of the turret column or the gold lead between these two teams.
See now if H2K can, well, I mean, get themselves, I guess, into a commanding position as well with some characteristic aggression here. But like you said, hard to get those engagements, of course. It's going to be a decent unburrow from Jankos or Vander going in with the horns out in front there as well. And again, ESC making their way around this Raptor pit as well. H2K forced to try and eke what they can out of that little scenario. Just back and forth, and H2K as well does have his teleport up. He's down on the bot side. He's just trying to reduce some of the pressure being applied earlier on by Crazy.
It's one of those problems that can't really be rectified by itemization. Maybe a Rylai's coming through for a U on the Victor will give them a little bit of pick potential, 35. A nice slow coming through, particularly from the Q as it's a single target ability, but it's just not really a problem you can rectify easily. And the double teleport, this is just the thing. It's almost like it's the prisoner's dilemma every time you're in champ select and you see control mids when you have to say, okay, but if I don't take teleport and he takes teleport, then we're kind of screwed when it comes to the 1-3-1 situation. The double teleport, even though it's a teleport Varus, and you're certainly not taking that teleport for any sort of engage, you don't really want to be flanking with Varus, even though he has an initiation ultimate, much better used for disengage. The double teleport game propelled Ever past teams like SKT is on full display this game.
So you can see that the implied mobility from Ever, it does affect H2K's decision making here. You can see that they're a little bit nervously just jockeying back and forth in the mid and trying to keep in step or keep tabs on these Ever players so they know at least if something fishy is afoot. But right now it seems pretty straightforward. Straight down the mid, Loken there. Gonna be fates call. Ryu's gonna have to flash away from that one as well. But he got caught by the Ring of Frost to the side. Brilliant stuff. Crazy came in for the pincer maneuver. Vander popping his up very, very early on there as well. Crazy forced to flash away. And Stand United will keep him alive for now as well. But this fight may well swing down in towards the mid or have that mid in a turret as well. And do Ever want to go for more? Ares seems to indicate yes. But it's a missed cleaver. And you see now, just look at that, the pushing up that battle line, that no man's land now is moving closer and closer to H2K's base. And here see, we got Mundo, and they're all going where they please.
It's going to be rinse and repeat. They have so much control over the map. They're actually teleporting onto a minion to keep it alive. They're going to get a lot of turret damage. They might even break the base here.
They're belt through here as well. They didn't hear about a turret does fall. And at what point do H2K have to respond to this? It's ESC getting aggressive. They're pushing them back right now. H2K already down to about half health. And then an inhibitor is down. Ever just pushing straight through as well. It was just a one pick or so that allowed them to push in, and look how much damage they've managed to inflict to H2K's base.
Will they kite back to the Dragon? Will they just go back, pick up some purchases and go split push other lanes? They still have one teleport available. The Dragon started. Everything is in the pocket of Ever. They've broken the base and taken an inhibitor. They've got 4 Dragons in just a second. It's all academic in that regard. Ever, this team has not missed a beat. The first team to qualify for IEM Cologne has clearly put that practice time to good use because they are playing textbook League of Legends in a tournament that hasn't really shown any textbook. You couldn't write a textbook given how different the first 3 series of this tournament has been. And suddenly we're seeing just beautiful League of Legends played by Ever.
And after losing the LCK promotions, Ever actually, that was when they decided they're going to move in together. They were going to spend time playing in the holiday period that most teams would have had after that time. They practiced for the entirety of it. Now you can maybe see some of that's starting to manifest here. H2K or H2 Days, I think is what they were sort of branded as after yesterday. They looked really, really strong. And even here there is obviously, Cold League, not too much out of their control. But, we talked about it. And even Yamato pulled it up on the desk as well. Strong early game or decent early game, at least comparable, but then those bad decisions might just start to creep in as the game goes longer.
But has it been bad decisions? I wouldn't really say so. Wonderful early gank from Jankos got them ahead as they expected. It's just they haven't really been able to push in the early to mid game. And how many times have we said that? Every time we see a Mundo against the likes of Nidalee, for example, Nidalee team or the early game Power Spike team gets ahead, but only to a point. And then we eventually reach this late game to mid to late game reality where they're outscaled, and whether it's the double teleport or the Mundo, H2K played a very polished champion select. They were just beaten by a team that, had 3 flexes in the first 4 picks, and then could just pick Varus in a situation where there's just no Engage to get on top of him. Speaking of Engage,
Key's been called in, and he's going to knock up Vander. And again, Crazy always coming in from the periphery. Manages to add some CC in there, but there goes Vander. He's going to be able to get the headbutt forward there. Key's in the middle of the mix there. Vander's going to drop down. It's a single kill for Loken there as well. Odo1 trying to push in and get rid of that AD carry, but a bit of heal coming out, and a double kill coming out for Loken now as well. Somehow holding on to his dear life, and Forgiven is forced to flash the cleaver away and keep his distance. 3 for 0 there, Ever. Now they're baring their teeth. Now they're getting aggressive. Now they're pushing forward.
They might even be looking for the finish. Poetry in motion was that team fight from Ever. How did Loken have the fast feet to stay alive? Eris, nope, not taking any damage from turrets. Think late game Mundo's been achieved. And maybe they won't finish the game quite now, but with the death timers, might be time.
Look at the pressure they're putting on towards these Nexus turrets. It looks like they don't want to be stopped here. And Jankos again, got to get slowed up. It was a taunt towards Forgiven. Oh, everybody's falling. It's a bloodbath and Ever. They put their name all over this one. They will take down the Nexus, and game 1 goes to our Koreans. A strong showing in their first game of IEM Cologne.
I think myself and a lot of analysts were just wondering, is this the Ever we saw at the Kesper Cup? Was it a flash in the pan? Okay, it's only one game, but this one game was just academic. It was well brought down. They once again seemed to understand patch 523. Just with the beauty in their draft, the team fighting was on point. This team has not missed a beat since the Kesper Cup.
And you weren't pointing fingers at a particular mistake made by H2K.
No.
You were alluding to something on a more fundamental level. Was it out of that champion select, or where did that occur for them?
I mean, the champion select was just beautiful. The 3 flexes, we've wondered out loud, why are we not seeing flexes? You know, for example, the last series where we saw Fiora locked in first, a champion that only really has one role. And this time, we had the likes of Lissandra, we had Mundo, we had Shen. They had so many different flexes. And what does that force? Even though you've kept your top lane and your mid lane for the last side of picks on blue, so that, of course, gives you, theoretically, the chance to counterpick. They didn't get to counterpick anything. They had to pick a safe top lane in Rumble, a safe wave clear mid lane in Victor, and they managed to get the last pick to counter that as well. So Ever got everything they wanted. They played with much aplomb and just very strategic, smart League of Legends. And they take the victory despite H2K playing pretty good themselves.
No doubt about it there as well. So H2K, tough for them, and probably, I guess, to rally together for this next game as well. Maybe the fix will come far early on in the process. But let's pass it over towards our experts and put this one under the microscope.
Thank you very much, Uber. You're looking sharp today. You almost look like you're running for office. But right now, the spotlight is on Ever. They take that first win, and they're looking good so far.
Thing that I really want to touch on forever, you know, I talked about how they have such great shot calling, especially late game, despite the fact that they're technically a challenger team or, you know, a semi-professional team, and it's their objective identification. What I mean by that is they are so good at identifying exactly where they need to be on the map in terms of setting up and taking something. I think the meta actually really favors them right now, simply because structures are so important. You know, Ever don't need to rely on their team fighting. It looked good on the back half of that game, but they don't have to force themselves into dragons. They don't mean as much. Just figure out which tower to take down and snowball the gold. It's almost like the perfect streamlined meta for them.
I feel like if you take a look at this game as a whole, it's like, I think it was a high-quality game. It's supposed to be very one-sided after that first initial mistake. That is what it's supposed to be. It was very, very clean-cut. It was the first initial mistake, and I think the first initial mistake was in the draft, because oh my goodness, Ever's draft, I have zero complaints.
Yeah.
They drafted wonderfully, and the big question I have is, are they going to survive in the lane phase against these big players? Once again, they have faced big players almost only in the past, so why not? They survived the lane phase, and they played to their win condition, and it was a clean-cut game.
Yeah, I think I'm most impressed just by the way they drafted. It's like just pulling out the pocket, like Varus, and then solving all the problems in their team comp. Varus, of course, a really good matchup into the Victor, and then solving. Yeah, I'm pretty impressed by that, the way they draft, and I think that a lot of teams, that if they want to learn how to do it properly, they should take a really close look at whatever does.
Yeah, I think that's really staying in all of our mindsets. And everyone, you know, I saw it on social media too. People who are watching the community, I'm seeing these clips about, okay, so far we weren't quite sure how drafts were supposed to work out, but Ever, I think all of us can agree that that is definitely a good draft. Like, you can't really complain about that. Now, the big question is, does that continue? Because on the side of H2K, I think another big thing we pointed out was that Lucian did go over to Forgiven, but it wasn't, it wasn't enough. You can't just make that happen just because he gets Lucian against a team like that.
H2K are about to lose a lot of power in the draft simply because they're about to be on red side, though. So all of these targeted bans are going to be removed from them, and they're going to have to fall back to, banning Lulu. So the fact that it was so heavily punished, like Ever got such a great draft from red side, and yes, there's so many power picks, so it makes, that double rotation much stronger because there's more OP champions left up, but I think it's going to be even harder for H2K in terms of their draft if they don't really pick it up here.
I think the big question mark of what H2K did was the first pick, Alistair. I think...
yeah.
I tried to remove the word from my head, but it just stuck in there. But Mundo is super, super powerful. I felt like he should have been the first rotation. I remember time and time again, Mundo is just showing that he is a powerful MFer, I tweeted to you that he's going to prove to you that Mundo is overrated, but...
Maybe I should just go and retweet it right now,
Yeah, hey, bring the pass back up, man. Make it haunt him a little bit, but it's not over. So far, this weekend, the first team to win a set has gone down in the overall match. We'll see if H2K can bring it back up, kind of fix their mistakes that they had, especially in the picks and bans, as we wait for Game 2 right after this.
Delivery for Hotshot? I'm in.
Good work.
Fine. We're fine.
So you want to present to the audience, respect it, and love it. You try.
Just through that door is the lab.
You guys watched my stream yesterday? I got this sick ace.
Yeah, I remember the one on Dust 2, right?
No, it was on Mirage.
It was on Cash, yeah.
Intel's fastest gaming solid-state drive. With 4 lanes of native PCIe, it's 4 times faster than SATA. A revolution in gaming technology.
And now it's ours.
You can just buy these, right?
I really like the way they're trying to make it more professional. Thanks to the monitor, their eyes are getting more comfortable.
Welcome back, everyone, to the Intel Extreme Masters. We have already started our second match of the day, and Ever is currently leading 1-0 over H2K. But before we go into game number 2, our gentleman Yamato has a message for everyone here on the desk.
It is something that has been pissing me off for a very, very long time.
Okay.
It's like the way people have looked at Forgiven. Because in his history, in Copenhagen Bulls, in SK as well, he's been able to 1v9. Pretty much.
Yeah.
In theory, he's been able to 1v9. And with that in mind, it is like the game has developed to a point where it's so reliant on every single aspect of the team. It's like a house with 5 pillars. That is why we don't see your favorite player 1v9ing anymore, simply because the game has changed where everyone affects the map. So when people tell me that Forgiven has gotten worse, he got worse at Gambit, it makes very, very little sense, because to me, on Gambit, he was still playing very, very well, but the game has developed to the point where 5v5 and everything around the 5v5 as a team is super, super important. That's why your favorite player is not 1v9ing anymore. As like back in Season 3, Faker was 1v9ing, Uzi was 1v9ing, all over the place, people 1v9ing. It doesn't exist anymore. It's a team game.
That's true, and we're seeing that. You know, the stronger teams now, you think about it, it's because they have like 3 strong players and 2 players who know how to work around those 3, or 2 and 3, whatever the balance may be. And that's kind of the credit we also gave to, of course, Forgiven, himself yesterday. Said he worked with the team and kind of just plugged himself right in where they needed him. But we're going to jump right into picks and bans here for game number 2. So we'll have to find out if H2K can brush the faults they may have had in game 1. And already, like you guys mentioned, Lulu and Gangplank having to be banned out.
They have to be banned, and I mean, I think right now, what are you banning as H2K? You have like 1 ban left. There's like Rice, there's Mundo, there's Kindred, there's...
I think you need to go for the Bard. Bard, leave a lot of things open. I think ESC Ever here is going to just go for the Mundo based on their priority.
Yeah. Hide it again. We've seen they know how to flex pick. Pick the Mundo. Maybe like Lissandra.
Oh, the Mundo.
There's the Mundo.
Do you first pick the Bard then?
No.
I don't think so.
No, right? You don't need to.
You don't.
So
Rice,
Ever has
Rice
nothing
is
to lose.
First pick.
Like
all the junglers are open right now.
The fact that this team understands that, I know we've seen so many teams like, prioritize the Alistar because they want to get their playmaker. They think that it's the champion. Everyone's like, no, Ryze is the broken champion. That's the priority pick. If it's not Ryze, if Mundo was left open, I'm sure we would have seen a Mundo. They're not going to say, okay, our guy's a really good Bard player. Screw it, Ryze.
And the question is now, like H2K, the response to this should usually be Lissandra. They haven't shown in this tournament that they play Lissandra. They have banned it a couple of times. That's the question now that I want to pose.
All right, well, we'll have to see. I mean, there are, again, so many options still on the board in terms of the junglers. Do you want to show your jungler first? Do you want to pick up something because it's a little bit stronger for you and your team? And, of course, kind of what cards you want to show, especially being on red side. They do have that advantage of being able to use those flex picks to their advantage.
I think this is correct.
This is correct because I'm pretty sure that Ever would have just picked up the Lissandra the next rotation and then still flex it to the top and to the mid lane. And Shen, of course, H2K is like trying to have the same approach of hiding picks as long as possible. But I'm not sure if we actually like log in Kindred here. Okay, Alistar is a really good pick right now that they can just pick. But they decide to go with Rek'Sai.
Okay,
maybe.
It's the same idea of the global pressure. The fact that Shin's being used as a flex. We saw Shin being picked up by Cloud9, but they would pick it in tandem with the support, so you knew that the Shin was going to that top position. By using Shin in a support position and then picking up double teleport, you effectively have 3 globals. So to immediately answer that with Rek'Sai, who, if she sets up her neural network of tunnels, can answer that global pressure that you would have, continue to have that strong side of the map because you can get your people over there. I expect to see more global pressure come out and for that to be Ever's calling card.
And it's like looking at H2K's side, I think it's pretty simple to predict. I think they're going to take the jungler in shape of Elise and then maybe just pick up the Lucian once again. I don't think they need to kind of hide any cards. They need to just wait until the last pick to kind of settle their flexes that they have.
What about Nidalee, man?
Oh, well.
I mean, it's a fair
Elise. I'm happy to finally seen Elise here.
There you go.
For the first time.
Oh, and reverting to the Tristana for Forgiven. I mean,
you need a range. You can't log in the Lucian because Ryze is like, he counters everything with short range. He always
the range,
has. And if you pick like Vayne or like whatever short range is, it's really, really hard to do anything against Ryze because you get one shot. So you need a bit of range. Like Tristana is probably the perfect pick into like the Ryze, and it's like the correct choice here, I think.
And likewise, if the Sivir goes through, offering Ryze that movement speed so he can get into range and lock someone up with the stun. That's typically why we see, you know, Janna Ryze in tandem, Sivir and Ryze in tandem.
Yeah.
Doesn't do too badly against Tristana in terms of like her satchel and having the spell shield available.
I think Sivir has a very, very decent matchup into Tristana with that in mind. That's why I just wanted him to go for the AD carry that is going to guarantee himself a proper matchup in the bot lane.
Here's the thing. If, okay, Sivir is not being locked in. I would have liked it because it would have covered the problem of having wave clear. If you put the Cassin into the side lane, you just have wave clear with Sivir. But I think Kalista's also like a really good choice here, simply because of how powerful that pick. Kalista's a powerful pick that also defines like team, like she's really good at team fighting and has like great synergy, of course, with Alistar with the double knockup.
Did you blind pick Kassadin?
He's blind picking the Kassadin.
Is he serious?
Yes.
Oh my goodness. The thing is, Kassadin is super great into magic damage dealing champions.
Here's the thing.
But send the Lissandra top and pick something AD. Maybe we'll see a Z. I would see the real Z coming back.
Here's the thing. Eva can just flex the Kassadin top lane.
Okay.
Throwback.
Right? Throwback, man. I'm not sure. I've not seen
that. Could be interesting. I didn't think about that.
Ryu wants it.
Yeah, I mean, they're looking for a way to take advantage of this for Ryu.
Because Kassadin has a good matchup into Lissandra, so the Kassadin can just follow the Lissandra, while Ryze can take care of all threats that are actually threatening for Kassadin in the mid lane, if it makes sense.
But the difficulty I'm thinking about Ryze in mid is like, if he's going for the physical damage carry, I don't like the Ryze. I like Riven. I prefer the Z here, because even if they send the Ryze mid then, with the Elise, you can pressure him pretty hard there.
Oh, well, it's actually just going to be a Fizz coming out for H2K.
That's beautiful too. Fizz does well into Fizz as well, Ryze as well. Like it.
All right.
Fizz does actually fairly fine against Kassadin, I think, because I've seen a lot of people pick Fizz into the Kassadin just because of how strong Fizz is. And Fizz has like a pretty free laning phase. That was always the weakness. And you kind of like counteract the trade-off you make with Fizz by having him farm up against Kassadin too.
It's like I've had a lot of conversation with Nuktak, who I see as a Fizz master, and he's been telling me that Kassadin does very well into Fizz. We saw it at Worlds. We saw, of course, Westor destroying Faker, but...
True, but he's also a specialty in himself, so that's a little bit... You can't read too much into that one, but we'll have to wait and see if this works out for Ryu and, of course, H2K. They need it to work out because Ever currently is leading 1-0. We'll find out if the Korean team can close it out 2-0 right after this.
Final here at IEM Cologne, and it is game number 2 between Ever and, of course, their opponents H2K, who honestly, and like we said, played well, but Ever actually kind of out-finessed them even before they got onto the Rift.
Specifically, the draft phase, I thought, was pretty one-sided just because of the flexibility that Ever was able to create. So they on the red side would always have a last pick to either round out their comp or counter what the enemy was bringing. The Varus was a masterstroke. This time, we're going to have to wait for confirmation on who's in the top lane. They've gone for some very interesting decisions. Are we going to see this Kassadin top? It was actually an Athena mid champion, the Kesper Cup. He played both the Ryze and Kassadin in the mid lane. This time, one of them has to be taken to the top lane, and one of these matchups might actually be pretty hairy for these mages.
Oh, it does look like Crazy has that Kassadin, of course, but whether or not he actually goes top lane as well, it just goes deeper and deeper. It's like a flexception.
And this is definitely a game where people want to see the Kassadin fail, because if we are now once again in a situation where Kassadin is a flex pick between top and mid, the drafts, the bans, they're all going to keep coming. It's really a blast from the past that nobody wanted to see, and it's worrying times. So hopefully Kassadin falls down this game.
Remember that quite vividly, actually. Is H2K now on the red side? They are grouping up again for that ward that we saw Ever do pretty similarly here, but they already walked straight across one, so Crazy has ample warding, and we'll just give that ground up here.
Going for the aggressive warding mission, you'd have to think, from H2K. We saw this come through from Everett. It did end up giving them the 2v2 they were looking for, but of course they entered lane late. Didn't end up mattering too much, but H2K basically mirroring the invade we saw on the red side from Ever last game.
2 wards placed down, and that's pretty much what you need to scout into any sort of lane assignment if anything different was going to come of this. Of course, you know, Kalista again for Lokan as well. Like you said, we talked about it in the break, Papa. One that Lokan likes to go for, is comfortable on Kalista as well. And it's also, like you said, nice for Ever to have that in the composition. So they stagger out their power spikes across their team, especially they did in that in last game, of course. Mundo late, Kalista a little bit earlier.
And look, you have to start adding Lokan to the list of AD carries who you just can't give Kalista away to. Bang, of course, famously professionally undefeated in that champion for the longest time. And then you look at someone like OQ, a wonderful Kalista player. Lokan, he defaults this champion, and just the space, the fact that he didn't die in that last team fight before the end of the previous match shows that he's a Kalista to be feared.
And it was Lokan who actually shut him down, who ended that Bang's spree on Kalista by using Tristana there, ironically enough, forgiven having picked that one here as well. That was the end of that spree in the Kesper Cup here as well. A little bit of early aggression towards this mid lane, and it does seem like Athena going to be staying mid with that Ryze. What's your take on how this one sort of plays out here?
It's just a situation where the auto attacks are going to help out the Ryze in the early game. Seeing a lot of posturing, but not looking like any gank in the mid just yet. Fizz has kill pressure at 6, but honestly, it's a snowball lane, so it'll be interesting to see which way it goes, as there's a lot of jungle pressure and even roams coming through from both squads. As a lane swap's been successful, H2K got what they wanted, and the fast push is going to be started by H2K.
Right, Jankos there will actually be able to take away the Gromp there, but you can see the key was fairly close by. So we're going deep for that camp there, as well as H2K positioning towards that tower to try and take that one down quickly, but ESC will respond to this one. Jankos has taken a little bit of damage from the blue buff, but ESC aren't looking to punish him. They're just trying to secure that one, and this might work against them if they're not careful. H2K
Ever has less numbers. Remember, they only have 3v4 in this situation. Sure, Ryze can teleport, but still very early level, so risky to contest anything, and now
Shadow Dash, Flash Pulverize going up. Odoamne, Diz knocked in the air for quite some time. He's still alive though as well, able to sit back towards the outside of the fight and do some damage. And in fact, ESC just gonna back off there as well. Like you said, they didn't have the numbers.
But they didn't have the numbers. Yeah, I can't tell if they've claimed the blue buff. It looks like it's still on the Rift. So far, the lesser numbers in the turret have been sufficient at dropping the fast push coming through from H2K. Teleport comes through the bot lane, yep. So, Ever, successful defense.
Yeah, the fact that you were able to dissuade H2K from taking that buff away with just 3 players reads a lot, I guess, into how H2K are feeling, or did feel in that situation. A lot of respect being offered over here to Ever. Jankos just auto-attacking there towards Key. Bit of free damage is good damage, of course, and he actually might try and follow up on this one. A Cocoon comes in, and H2K, out of nowhere, going straight for Key. It's a rappel down, and the first blood goes towards Ryu. Key, it's a little bit too far forward.
H2K just didn't take the pedal off the metal. They very much want to pick up this blue, just because we can note that it's Crazy riding the enemy blue buff. It was donated, of course. You don't need that blue buff to jungle if you're the Rek'Sai, so donated in blue just to try and help the laning phase. Predictably not going to be so good when we're talking about top lane Kassadin, and Jankos will claim the enemy blue buff. So it took a long time. It was elongated, but successful blue buff invade after this time from H2K.
And not only the blue buff, but also that kill of Key, not realizing how far forward he was. And now Odoamne going to be pressured by Lokan. That renders well. Definitely going to be leaving a scratch. So Duamne has to be very, very careful about how far forward he can legitimately come in this lane.
Whenever Glacial Path is down, it's going to be effectively denied for the 16 or so seconds of that cooldown, and H2K reinitiate this fast push. They have the Tristana. What has been the story from them? With Tristana and Elise, of course, who does have the Spiderlings and the W to push down turrets early, H2K, in all their victories, in fact, in all their games so far, barring the last outing, have focused on turret pushing with Tristana. That has been Forgiven's game. It's more of a thankless task. You don't see the big KDA numbers that kind of typify the community's perception of Forgiven, but it's been pretty damn effective most of the time. So returning to that game makes a lot of sense. And remember, fast push against Caston, fast push against low wave clear in general. You know, apart from Desperate Power being activated, there is little to no wave clear on the side of Ever, and we didn't actually notice it. Athena has had to take Exhaust, so there's no double teleport, and that means I have to feel that the lack of wave clear is going to be a big issue.
Keep our eyes on that one there as well, and just the little tells coming away from Ever as they try and hold back any sort of pushes coming towards them. Are going to tell a lot of that story and maybe illustrate that point a little bit further for you, Papa. But now we have Loken and Key towards this bottom side, and we do have Forgiven there as well. So we may be seeing the 2v2 as Vander does traipse his way down the river to join in on this one, and both of those AD carries comparable CS totals. In fact, the biggest deficit we're seeing is between Athena and Ryu, who's been kept to 20 CS in the mid lane.
That's the reality of a range versus melee matchup. Ryu's not level 6, in fact he's level 4, he's 2 levels behind. He went for the invade, fell low during that, had to back, didn't have teleport himself. The result is a big mismatch in terms of experience in the mid lane. Jankos is coming up.
Counter gank could be pretty potent here if Jankos wants to come in. It's a flash. Kakuna Matata, no worries, mate. Ares is going to get chomped straight down. Odoamne trying to back away there, and Jankos stands in between the two of them. Crazy wants to flash forward and trying to get the kill here. And Odoamne, yes, the Ring of Frost comes out. He keeps a distance from Crazy. Crazy can't reach him with the Void Pulse, and there it is. Jankos will get the execute.
Really smart pathing from Jankos. Threw a pink ward, came in with the flash, was aggressive in his movements. This is the Jankos that we saw confidently putting Rush in his place in the Lee Sin vs Nidalee rematch in the third match yesterday. Very nice play, and this Kassadin, you know, is what we're talking about. Kassadin in the off lane and the long lane, especially pre-Rift Walk. He did a lot of respectable damage, but went down, and suddenly, early snowball advantage squarely with H2K.
This is what we were talking about last game, Papa. H2K didn't play a bad early game at all. In fact, it was good. There was early games coming away from Jankos, and he's now emulating that again here. Already 100% kill participation. He's been everywhere over the map. He's opening up opportunities for H2K to eke out these small leads, and they will hope, I'm sure. And as things get a little bit later on, they're not going to be pressured. There's no double teleport again, as you said, forever, but Vander might be caught here in the bush. Yes, the knock up, the flash forced.
Yeah, and we'll get into the double teleport when we have time. The ticking time bomb's not quite the same. It's not quite Dr. Mundo, but Kassadin, if he can somehow pick up farm, I guess pretty easy post 6 when he's hard to gank. He will be a bit of a ticking time bomb. Ryze and Kassadin have some of the highest single target and even many times AoE damage that you can possibly get out of mages. There's a huge amount of damage, and Loken will, of course, have the earlier power spike. Callista coming through to do respectable damage himself. The damage is super high this game from Ever, so once again, H2K, they're going to probably focus on the turret destroying, and they want to keep the accelerator, keep the pedal on it as long as possible, because there's still plenty of impressive scaling on the side of Ever.
Are you concerned about Ryu here right now being so far down in CS? He does have the kill that alleviates that discrepancy a little bit more, but would you, as H2K, have a furrowed brow upon seeing that?
Well, he's now hit level 6, and you have to remember that all the pressure that's been caused by his roam, by his invader, and picking up the first blood with the flash, you know, okay, he's missed out on CS, but the map control is getting further and further into the hands of H2K. And at some point, it's going to be hard for Ryze to overextend for CS. This is a champion that can be easily ganked, easily dived by Lissandra and Elise, 2 champions that can go invulnerable, 2 champions that can easily go over walls. The implied pressure will exist now that level 6 is hit and that the map is so squarely controlled in the top lane for H2K. So on the surface, yes, you should be concerned when you're that far behind in CS. But with what H2K has been able to get as Fizz has sacrificed CS, it shouldn't be a problem for much longer, just given all the pressure coming through from H2K.
Seems like it's not just interviews that Jankos shows no respect in. And look at how deep he is. Look at how happy he's been to trace through this part of the jungle. The waters are chummed, and the Shadow Dash goes on towards Athena. And Ares is taking a lot of damage. He has to Frozen Tomb himself, but Jankos now a target of the tower. We did, of course, see that Shen drop. Vander went to the tower.
Raptors.
Jankos, oh, not quite. I think he'll just escape there. but it was a close one. A 1-for-1 trade overall, but definitely as H2K were the instigators, I really seemed like a clear advantage to them after that.
It was just key. This is a guy whose Bard is what wowed us back in Casper Cup, but the fact that he had rotated to the mid lane, predicted this dive, we were talking about it, so we knew it was going to come eventually, but Key, he was right on the time. I was there. He's there again, actually. He is just smartly in this situation understanding that the 1v1 between Clist and Chatan is fine and just trying to relieve pressure from the Rise, because the implied pressure became real pressure, but not quite a kill advantage for H2K.
The prescience from Key so far has been immaculate. We'll have to see if he is going to continue to be in those important spaces here, as obviously H2K are looking to isolate single champions, and Jankos is just out for blood. Still 100% kill participation with those 3 assists. And now, I mean, we went away from forgiving a little bit there, of course, as action went down in the mid lane, but, he's just doing the solid job here. Again, rarely do we see him down in CS. I think we saw him yesterday at one point in one of the games. He was down a little bit, but he seems to have been transitioning fairly comfortably through the early game now as well. Have to be careful, though, of course, his Blitz call is available for Loken, but won't be used.
Yeah. Also worth noting that, as expected, both Athena and Crazy are going to be investing in scaling. Rod of Ages is powerful on this patch, but we're still talking about better immediate power than before, but still, of course, more focusing on the 10-minute mark once those items are completed. So Lissandra going for Rod of Ages herself, but Ryu already has the Abyssal Scepter, and it's certainly not from CS. That's definitely from the kills he's managed to pick up. Athena will pick up a blue buff, but look for H2K to continue playing around the mid lane, because it doesn't matter what the CS values are. If you're even levels with an Abyssal Fizz, the kill pressure is immense onto this Rise.
Ryu is going to continue to make himself relevant now, especially off the back of what you just pointed out, having that item already in his inventory, of course. And for Athena, well, your Rise, you got to build up a little bit slower. And there's the chum, the water's coming out as well. Athena's under his tower, but it doesn't seem to care, or it doesn't seem to matter, should I say, to H2K as they go in for that one. And a teleport forced by Crazy, and he gets there as the dust settles, no one to be seen. And there's the knock-up as well. Forgiven in that bottom lane, it's going to be a teleport coming in here for H2K. Fate's cool. He's pulled out here, and Key goes back in. He gets the knock-up for Forgiven and Vander. The teleport was cancelled. Beautiful read there from ESC. They won't get the kills, but you can see these guys, there's something happening in those brains, no doubt about it.
I mean, the fact that they won the trade of summoners. Remember, flash and teleport used from HK for nothing. Literally only the Fate's Call used. It's very smart re-engage from Ever. They won that little skirmish. The teleport's now down. No teleport advantage because Crazy teleported into mid. H2K. Let's be fair, though. They're squarely in control of this game. Up in kills, up in a lot of gold. The scaling items haven't been started. It looks like H2K have at least a 10 to 15-minute window of dominance, and it's up to them to just close out this game, because right now, the early game, specifically Jankos' very smart pathing, has put them well on top of Ever.
He's still continuing to be involved in every single kill that happens on the Rift. Such a key player, of course, coming across with Evander from Rockout, and those two definitely have given a new look to H2K and a new lease on their performances here. You and Jankos there as well towards that middle side. It's a pink ward to be placed down, and I want to see them really get aggressive. We know what H2K can do when they get that aggression going. You talked about a window. They have time. They have a power play, if I waggle my fingers and use that term loosely. Loken was looking for Vander. Straight with the Shadow Dash, but this could get dangerous here. Keep looking towards that bottom side, but Ever just trying to be a bit more conservative here.
I mean, this is where Ryu will start to catch up in CS or even get ahead, just because if any friends go off the map, whether it's Lissandra or Elise, if they're not accounted for, Abyssal Scepter plus the magic damage coming in from either of those champions, doesn't matter that it's not a Runeglaive Elise, it's just a Cinderhulk Elise, and a Rod of Ages not fully stacked from Lissandra. Abyssal Scepter fizzes natural damage, the damage amp from the ultimate, that will be a dead Rise. So Rise's access to safe farm is being squarely held down from the Fizz pick and the smart itemization from Ryu.
Forgiven now, just aggression towards Loken in the bottom lane. He's been happy just to stay there, really. I mean, just getting his farm up. Loken has kept himself fairly close as well. So you can see that neither AD carry is willing to get their opposite number, get ahead in any sort of meaningful manner. In the middle, we are seeing that pressure applied now, as well as that ladder turret. Still looking pretty good. A couple scratches being applied there as Ever. There's almost a sense of uncertainty there for them as well. Not sure how deep they're willing to go here. H2K definitely looking a lot stronger, galvanized from a very good few ganks coming in from Jankos here. And you're right, they're looking in control, but it's how they now capitalize and how they manifest their gold advantage or their kill advantage into something we can see on this map.
And things definitely haven't gone... Look, they've probably gone worse for Ever than expected, if you are Ever, but they haven't gone awful. Remember, you locked in top lane Castle. You're not expecting to be winning the early game. You knew things were going to be slightly hairy. You're still getting farm over to Athena. That's the important fact. The fact that he cultivated that early CS advantage means that now that he's missing, say, 2 or 3 CS every couple of minion waves, not as big of a factor, keeping 30 CS advantage over in the mid lane. They're just trying to stem the bleeding, and it's on H2K to keep pushing it. Items like Abyssal, champions like Elise and Lissandra can take hold of this game. We're going to finally see a dragon come down. Such a different game, remember. It was a 22-minute third dragon in game 1. And 15 minutes in, no team's even started this objective yet.
So 2.4k gold lead towards H2K, and it's almost as if they heard you, Papa. They're going to go take away this first dragon. Talking about H2K having the early advantage, don't want to harp on it, but how specifically do you think they'll be looking to actually capitalize on that? Because you talked before, dragon, yeah, brilliant. You get your first dragon. 1 is all you really need for both sides. Where do they actually start to now make their presence and advantage felt?
I mean, you noticed Jankos doing it, 5-6 minutes ago, when they basically took a stranglehold over the top side of the jungle. Now, smartly, they're taking a stranglehold over the bottom side of the jungle. When they had the top side of the jungle, we said, okay, now Ryze can't safely farm because at any point could be turret dived by either Elise or Lissandra. Now that they're putting all their members towards the bottom side, there should be less free farm. Basically, wherever either of these carries, all 3 of them are getting access to safe farm, they should be attacking. And it's on someone like Key, on the Alistair, to try and relieve pressure, as we're going to see lots of cross-map movements from H2K to just try and get this outer ring of turrets completely down.
And it's a Void Rush actually towards the middle side here for Ares. So straight away, you know, Ever aren't looking to contest that one. They knew how many members of H2K were moving down towards the bottom side, and they give that ground. Maybe they have to respect that. They have to understand that they know they're not ahead in this one here, and they need to bide their time and strike when the time is right.
Squarely behind, but definitely by a much larger margin. They were actually slightly ahead, even with their scaling Mundo comp in the previous game. This game, they're behind as they should be. Actually a bit forward of Ares to be so far forward against a Abyssal Scepter Fizz, but they're going to try and keep holding on their waves. It's the mid tower that, of course, gives you the most vision, so taking that down, letting the minions push aggressively into mid would give H2K all the answers. It's now on Ever to just keep rotating members. It's going to almost be a supporting cast of members for Athena to walk into mid and try and keep this outer turret up. Buy time for these double Rod of Ages to start scaling. Buy time for this tier. Ryze, you know, tier, Rod of Ages, this is what he's all about, but it's still scaling for days, only if we get to the 27-30 minute mark.
You can see Ever now actually prioritizing here, getting good amounts of farm flowing through. Crazy has himself a farm lead over Odoamne. Yes, of course, as we talked about, Athena is ahead of Ryu, and Forgiven is actually the only member of H2K in that meaningful role that does have a meaningful CS lead, and it's been shortened by a great deal here. So Ever, they're not extending for too much. It's like they have an understanding of exactly what they have the capacity to achieve at this current time, and they're sticking to that. That's discipline as well as good foresight. It's crazy in Odoamne in the top side. Harry sitting back here as well. He was hoping maybe for Odoamne to come forward and catch himself out. It's a long cooldown on the Glacial Path, but Odoamne doesn't go in.
And, you know, Yamato-Kano was mentioning it. There's been a lot of talk among analysts that Kassadin's actually a pretty good matchup against Lissandra. Maybe that's why we're starting to see it, the Lissandra flicks. This is what they went for. They knew they didn't have the best options for the Ryze, but they thought, okay, let's get Kassadin the matchup. Focus on Kassadin getting the matchup. And even though he was denied so much CS, was behind in CS early in the game, suddenly cultivated 17 CS advantage. There's not much kill pressure from the Lissandra, barring a lot of help from multiple members from H2K. Kassadin's farming up, and that's the only worry here. The one thing that H2K hasn't done that I would have liked to see, with just the pressure of the Abyssal Scepter, Fizz, and Jankos being well on top of Ares, would be controlling the blue buff, because only with blue buff does Athena really have the ability to use Desperate Power to clear waves every, say, 2 or 3 minion waves. If they had also controlled that blue, it would have been that much harder, and we would have expected, say, 15, 14 minutes for this outer turret to come down, rather than now, where it's still going to be alive, theoretically, at 20 minutes time.
And you highlighted that lack of wave clear on Ever. You said this could be an issue for them. Athena needs a blue buff, like you said, to have some wave clear. Without it, it's so much harder to actually counter this push that is currently going on. Talked about Ryu getting involved. He at least went towards the bottom side here as well, but he's not going to find too much, as Loken giving him plenty of respect. Ryu just checking, see if there's any recalls happening behind that tower.
I mean, the Fizz, he's certainly not a champion that you can really walk up to if you're... Callista has a lot of outplay, but, you know, the fish comes down. It's going to be a dead Callista, squished into the ground. So Going to have to rotate someone to the bottom lane. It's almost like Rise is on duty. And look, smart pickup here. He's actually gone for the QSS to just have a hope in hell of being able to buy time to farm against this Fizz.
Forward thinking there from Athena. Let's see if it pays off. Key does go in there as well. Does get one pulverized. It's an immediate rocket jump away from Forgiven. Normally it's the other direction, Forgiven going in here, but he himself has been disciplined in this game, just doing what he believes or his team believes needs to be done. And what might have been our first proper fight of the game fizzles out into, well, just some pleasantries exchanged.
And just worth knowing that Rise wasn't grouped, so that was definitely, it was up there with the fake Thresh lanterns where you throw out a lantern, baiting them into thinking you have allies when you don't. It was just literally buy more time for this outer turret. It's going to fall soon. We noticed it's at what, maybe 20% health. Forgiven, he's not leaving this mid lane until he's got that structure or he's dead. So either way, going to keep anchoring themselves in mid. And the inevitable will come soon, and that will be 3 outer turrets down forever.
I mean, you know, yeah, with Key going in for the pulverize, there was always Fate's Call available sure, just in case the proverbial was going to hit the fan. So Key didn't mind too much about going forward. But Ryu, on the other hand, might have other ideas. He's just making his presence known there. Chum the Waters is available, so if he wants to go in for the throat here, again, just dancing around. Playful tricks to back up. But that pressure, the push is coming in. It's bit by bit. It's a war of attrition that H2K have all the tools to come out on top.
It's just really small, subtle thing, but it's nice watching Key. He literally would juke forward and back as the Fizz walked up just to ensure that he was going to body block the ultimate there. Just smart little positioning thing. It might sound like just an obvious thing, but I try and give my tip of the hat to Key when I can, because this guy, whether it was on the Bard or smart moves last game on the Shen, this is the guy. I'm going to make a big proclamation here. I think the Key is the most impressive support prospect since the days of Mada and Peekaboo. This guy has so much potential to be a top support. Will we see him in Champions next season? As of right now, maybe not. But either way, Key has been the untold story of the offseason.
Top-ranked member of his team on the Korean solo queue ladder, and actually only one of 3 of them that are in challenges. So
MVP of the Casper Cup as well.
Absolutely, had an amazing game as well, and he was giving Bang nightmares for a while after that, I'm pretty sure. When like 14 or so assists, no deaths or something crazy. But then, speaking of crazy, in the top lane is Oda1, bit of a Ring of Frost there as well. It's going to be the Frozen Tomb to come down on Crazy as well. Look at all the damage he's trying to put across, but it's not going to be enough. Crazy is going to finish things up with a Null Sphere, but Vander at least managed to get on site and claim one back for H2K.
Worth knowing that was the absolute last half second of the channel. Jankos getting aggressed on, but Ares doesn't quite have any backup just yet. That was the last half second channel of the Stand United. Almost didn't complete. He almost killed him through the ultimate, and you can tell that as the items start to roll and as the Rod of Ages start to stack up, okay, that's a 1-for-1, but with the extra resources used, ever pick up a dragon? And next time, when the ult's down or when a bit more AP is stacked, I don't think the Stand United shield's going to be enough to save Oda1.
There's got to be a grim omen, I think, especially for H2K there as well. They have to be aware of that. But of course, still, as you said, feeling in the driver's seat at this stage, and ESC now starting to bare their teeth a little bit more, looking for those fights in lanes. And we're seeing those Rod of Ages having been completed. And as you said, Athena got his QSS. It's also an Abyssal Scepter now for Crazy. So some of those important items are coming in for these scaling champions.
They definitely are. Athena, he's going to be late on his big items, of course. Just sitting on the tier still, so 25, 26, 30 minutes for the completed Seraph's Embrace when that comes through. Still going to keep picking up the blue buffs, going to keep scaling up. The big question to me is, can Athena actually stand against a split-pushing Ignite Lichbane Fizz? I'm going to guess no, even with the QSS. Maybe with some sick-out play. I can't really see it, but Athena's just trying to do his best. He doesn't have teleport, so there's another situation. Ryu is going to continue the split-push himself. It's going to take multiple members to stop this Fizz, I'd have to think.
Tension is brewing. You can feel it right now. This game building up to a fever pitch, and we will eventually hit that critical mass. And one of these two teams, well, it's going to be a big advantage from them once we break through that important climactic point. ESC, almost a sense that they're readying themselves up here as well. And Jankos, well, not surprised to see him spending time in that blue side jungle again. Is just being able to get on towards those camps and just disrupt, I guess, the transfer of buffs going in towards Ever as well. A constant thorn in the side. It's diligent work from him. And it's honestly contributing to H2K being in front right now.
It's diligent work, but it hasn't been quite the result I would have expected. Remember, at 10 minutes, they controlled this top lane jungle. Since then, every blue buff has been claimed by Rise. Rise hasn't been turret dived ever since we saw Ryu and Jankos go for the brute force dive on him in mid. Rise has surprisingly managed to cultivate still a 30 CS advantage, despite the fact that at different points, both his top lane and bottom lane jungle is going to be in a complete no-go area. So it's one thing to invade smartly, that part absolutely A+ by Jankos, but actually translated that into picking up those buffs, that's what's been the missing piece of the puzzle for H2K.
Well, we had to wonder how H2K's advantage was going to manifest itself, and maybe it just hasn't. Fate's Call's going to come in, Odoamne already going to use a glacial path to get out, but Odoamne will be caught there as well. It's going to be the knock-up in the Frozen Tomb, used on towards Loken, out of Shadow Dash. They're keeping the Callista CC down for quite some time, but he's able to sustain through it. H2K flanking off towards the side, surely looking for Loken at one point, but Odoamne will fall, and Crazy, he wants a better Jankos as well. Riftwalk will come out, a Force Pulse to slow the man up. Crazy, well, it's going to be very, very hard for Jankos to escape. His inevitable fate, and even Vander as well, very, very close to being taken away. He actually had the Shadow Dash, was actually hit by the Prey Seeker, but not quite enough damage to get it done. And here's a response from H2K, working on those turrets.
Really smart move from H2K. They note the fact it's not double teleport they're against, it's low wave clear like we mentioned, and only an exhaust taken from Rise. I don't know if we've even seen. Okay, Ever's the one raising the ante. This has turned into an all-in from Ever. They understand they've got 3 picks. They just saw 2 members bot with no teleport. It's a free Baron. Very smart, decisive call from Ever.
Yep, this tense standoff has now hit that critical mass, and we're starting to see the ball really start to get rolling. And ESC, well, the one's almost feeling like they're in the driver's seat, especially their response to that turret being taken away. Let's take Baron. Let's really turn it up to 11 here and start to apply pressure to all of these lanes. And they're going to start with the top.
It's finally going to be a no turret. A no damage turret now going to, of course, be completely taken down by both the AD carry and the Baron buff minions coming through. Kasten hadn't really prepped that at all. And this situation going to be fine. Wow, okay, that back buff, that back timer did come through. Ryu has plenty of mobility himself, and Crazy, he's dead.
Yeah, Crazy's just going to get caught up here as well. Riftwalk, not enough to get him out, and Ryu will be able to pick him up. Taking one of those Baron buffs away from Ever and H2K as well. They want to respond. They're not going to be left in the dust here, and they're looking towards a turret. It's already been taken away. Ever only have 1 turret over the course of 26 minutes.
But isn't it fun to see these decisive League of Legends? First, the decisive picks come through, and then Forgiven says, okay, my team's going to lose this skirmish. Let's go bot and pick up this turret, take that turret, then the decisive calls take Baron, and the chase continues. So it's definitely been A to B to C to D. Ever slightly in the advantage because they pick up the Baron, but still in a hole in terms of gold. And still, once this Baron buff fades, if H2K gets some picks, they could end this game.
Key getting pushed on here as well, but Ryu wants other targets. He's looking for Loken, and he might just have him. Frozen Tomb is used, and Odoamne is going to take him out. Ryu forced towards the backside here, but Loken being down. We'll see how this happens. But Athena, he's got himself on towards that side now. Ares dodging the shot coming in from the Sandra, and Jankos is going to be caught. 1-on-1 with Rise. Not a man you want to meet down a dark alley, or even a well-lit one, to be fair. And the blue man will get the kill.
The turret dive was not necessarily advised. They almost picked up a kill and got out, but they couldn't quite do it. No reset on the rocket jump coming through from Justana. Some exit kills come out, and what could have potentially been a couple of picks and breaking the base even against Baron buff from Ever is counted. So we're going to see the replay coming through. You can see why they're going through. The moment the Shen channels though, they're going through the dive on Loken. They think they can take him out. They layer the CC, but not ideal. The first cleanse is enough. Loken dies, but Rise, he's jogging there. The desperate power is activated. Flashes for the first kill, gets another. They hold on to the turret, and nothing more comes as Athena.
Forgiven's going to be completely caught out there as well. He was so far forward, and now Odoamne as well going to be surrounded. H2K going for the dive. The response was reasonable. It was a 2-for-2, but somehow they find themselves in enemy territory, and ESC were just ready for them to walk into the trap.
And the moment you walk into a trap that involves a Rod of Ages, Seraph's Embrace, Rise, and Cassidy, who's been basically free farming the top 209 CS, 15 ahead of Lissandra. Both these mages, very high damage carries, are online.
I tell you what, this gold lead is now going to be diminishing. In fact, it will always be non-existent after that turret is taken. H2K have had their opportunities. They're still looking good, but they're getting picked off there, of course, as Odoamne and Forgiven. 2 very, very crucial champions here off the map for a while. As you said, mid-game, these death timers are really quite oppressive, but now it's even opened up a dragon forever.
The long death timers means finally picking up some of that global gold they've been smarting on. Of course, now turrets give so much more global gold than they used to. That big gold lead was 5,000 a couple of seconds ago. Suddenly we'll go over and it's only 2,000, and it will continue to narrow. If they pick up these 2 answering turrets, it's Ryu.
And he's going to go in. The waters are chummed. And Athena's going to use the Ceres Embrace. He actually fancies to hang around. Not sure why. There's a 3 surrounding him here. I don't think he'll even be able to get one kill away. This is right. The desperate power allowing him to sustain through a lot of that damage. The playful trickster is always going to be available there for Ryu. Just a strange scene there as well. But you're seeing just a glimpse of how scary that Rise is going to be as this game continues.
If there was 2, maybe he could have pulled off some shenanigans with the QSS. But 3 confirmed that it was going to be a pick. But what does the pick mean? Remember, we just saw all 3 of those people back. So they're not going to get any structures. They already had the inner turret down. It's always nice to pick up extra kill credit. But no more objectives gained. Barons off the map, Dragons off the map, inner turrets are down. It's going to be breaking these outer turrets, these inhibitor turrets, for H2K, but only when they're grouped in Forgiven's free autoing are they realistically going to pick any of those up.
So let's take stock of things now as the dust starts to settle a bit.
Yeah, we've had a lot of action.
I need plenty of those, to be fair. I mean, we've got some, there's items now being finished off. Ryu actually has his death cap as well as his Lich Bane, so he's really starting to look scary. H2K as well, fighting over the Raptors. I mean, any other notable sort of pickups, item-wise, or spikes we're seeing here, Papa?
I mean, Fizz has finished his death cap. This is assassination through and through. QSS be damned. You're dead if this guy gets on top of you and hits any semblance of a combo with the ultimate. This also means his split pushing is super good. Interested to see what Fizz versus Castlin looks like. People have said this is a sort of lane matchup that you can navigate through if you're Castlin, but it's certainly not great. What does it look like later in the game when the items start to be put together? Pistol Scepter's complete. I don't think we're going to see Crazy try and bite off more than he can chew. If he goes down with teleport up against Ryu's Ignite, then that's going to be a big strategic hole for Ever to try and fill.
We're seeing a lot of skirmishing happening here in general. We're not seeing full-scale 5v5s. Both of these teams as well are, making decisive moves in towards fights when they sort of think that's appropriate. Do you think that benefits both of these teams here as well, just going for these little picks? And what do you reckon, a 5v5 is going to benefit more?
I mean, you look on H2K's side. Let's talk about the duos they have. We already saw the mid lane, Elise and...
Just Forgiven things going towards Ares, and the Cocoon does catch him as well. It's a pickup and a very important one there for H2K, who kind of threw themselves away earlier on with a couple picks that they gave to Ever, but that's an important one there. Jungler is down.
And Spared My Blushes showing you that the pick power of the likes of, say, Elise Fizz or Lissandra Elise, the pick power of the 2v2s is much stronger for H2K. The 5v5, okay, they can get things done. Okay, they have a front line, the likes of Shen Ultimate to help them out. But 5v5 should be Ever's playhouse. But in a 5v4 situation, H2K, they're desperate to break the base here.
And looking impressive in this moment, H2K coming forward and definitely putting a bit of sweat on the brow of Ever here. Oh, this is the classic gank bush, of course. Ryu there. His ward is going to be spotted out fairly quickly, and he'll abscond to an adjacent bush and hope for something similar there as well. H2K valuing heavily. Still, that vision in the jungle. You can see backing away now as well, and they'll take a break.
Speaking of valuations, Banshee Veil, third item coming through. Third major item coming through from Athena. Athena's just looking to be the true machine gun. 40% CDR. Just stand in the Fizz damage. Be the one say, okay, this certainly can't be the Callisto. I'm going to stand there and try and tank through and heal up through the damage you put out, Fizz. So he's basically put his hand up and said, okay, I'm going to spend this 2,700 gold or so on the Banshee Veil to allow myself to actually position aggressively, because if you don't pick up an item like that, you need to be so defensive as Ryze, as you're just another potential assassination target for Ryu.
QSS and Banshee's Veil for Athena. Loken actually has a Hex Drinker and of course a Quicksilver Sash there.
Remember, QSS, Banshee Veil, the Seraph's Embrace shield, and also the Ryze ultimate, passive shield. He's deceptively tanky to magic damage as Ryze.
Man, like the defensive mindset there with ESC, they respect a lot of the capacity of H2K to cause carnage in these fights, but it's Ever now coming forward. They're going to have this middle inner turret as well, and it looks like they'll press up or maybe even try and take some of their own control. They haven't spent a lot of time in this part of the map, or at least in H2K's jungle in a deep fashion. So at least they'll be able to reach themselves forward, extend a bit, pop a ward or two down, and start to establish their presence here.
And this might be very similar viewing to fans who watched the LeBlanc game, where Ryu basically effortlessly took them over the line against Cloud9 in Game 2 yesterday. The difference between LeBlanc and Fizz, though, is that LeBlanc can poke. LeBlanc can get in there with the Mimic Distortion and then get to safety. Only champions like Morgana and Maokai can really shut him down or make her pay for going for those sort of pokes. When you're Fizz, you're going all in or you're not poking in. So much easier to sweep out, put the blue trinkets from safety, and stop Ryu from coming in. So it's going to be an all in or nothing for H2K to take advantage of this fed assassin.
No one's saying they don't have the capacity to create a fight when and where they want it here, but ESC, of course, thinking defensively, have, of course, ability to try and kite around that one, get some disengage if they need to. Headbutt is always a possibility, but Crazy comes forward instead. Just over the wall, it was a force pulse, but only too much damage being stuck down. But ESC, now they've shifted the gear. They're going up one as well. Now they're looking for the towers themselves. They're looking to establish dominance and control, and this ain't a bad way to do it at all.
A very easy job to do. Rise, not the most turret damage, not the most range coming through on Callista either, and Cassidy can only really fake aggression. So taking this tower will take time. Here's the engage.
They're going forward. O2 then there as well. Lays the frozen tomb on Loken, but he's still alive for the moment. Athena now starting to front load some of that damage. Vander has gone down. Loken's still on his feet. Crazy there gets one as well. And this is all going wrong for H2K. They had it in the palm of their hand, and Ever are now taking the game away from them bit by bit. A 3 for none. H2K were the ones that engaged, and they fell so short of what they hoped.
He might have been exhausted, but Athena put out massive damage and did not take a speck on his health bar. It's already impressive without even talking about the Seraph's Embrace shield. They're going to keep pushing. The attack speed's there from Loken. The base is going to be broken. There's nothing Forgiven and Jankos can do to stop this inhibitor going down.
30 seconds about that on Oduamne and Ryu here. Vander will get back to the fight fairly quick, but these death timers again proving to be so harsh, but Ever will satisfy themselves with taking away that inhibitor, whereas a couple of minutes ago they were 4 turrets behind or so and weren't even looking like they're about to take an inhibitor. What a quick paradigm shift here coming out of Ever.
They just couldn't kill Loken. They used everything to get into that champion. He got very, very low, but then the QSS came through. Then we're talking about the Locket shield. Actually has the Mikhail's Crucible. I think it was just complete. I don't think he had it for the previous fight. But regardless, all the heals came through. Of course, if he had had it, he would have used it. Would have been on cooldown. So didn't have that for the previous fight. But regardless, they couldn't quite kill Loken. And Athena just laughed, unloaded his damage, and that was the end of H2K.
All the way to the bank. 4-2-4 now on that rise, and a definitely respectable total of farm. Forgiven, well, doing the standard Forgiven play here as well with almost 400 CS in 36 minutes. There's a lot of gold going in his direction, but if you can't turn that around and actually make the impact with it, what's the point?
But isn't it nice that we can look at the losing team here? At the moment, it's H2K. It feels like the game's starting to fall into laps of Ever. You can't really point at anyone at H2K and say, you messed up. You've played really bad this game, and everyone's played their role. Jankos was very, very impressive in the early game. Okay, we can talk about maybe you didn't push it enough, but this is a big stage. This is a very important tournament. So all I can say is that H2K have played very well this series. It's going to be one of those series where even if they go down 2-0, you can have your heads held high because you've played very smart League of Legends against an Ever team that actually was swayed in the early game. Not many teams have taken it to Ever. Only, I believe it was Rebels Anarchy took a game off Ever during the entirety of the Casper Cup.
That's right, and even as it was sort of pointed out, SKT bringing Faker in wasn't actually enough to slow them up here. And H2K, I'm going to say it, yeah, it's obvious, but they haven't been together long at all, and some people forget actually how much of a factor that is against ESC. Have been around as a team for so long, and speaking of ESC, they're going to go in for one here. It's Vander getting knocked up. He seems to be the target right now, and he's just going to get blown to pieces. Elsewhere, we actually saw a fight, and it was, oh my god, Forgiven getting a kill up on towards Crazy, so at least that's something for H2K as they want to forge forward a little bit more now. Ryu's in there, spreading some damage towards Key. He goes in, gets a 3-man knockup, but there's no follow-up at the moment. They're looking towards Jankos. It's Ares. He's trying to chase him, but a flash is going to come away. But Fate's caught. Key gets in there. He gets a knockup, and another knockup. He's all about getting his enemies up and airborne, and Loken now being focused. Forgiven and Athena up on the side, and Athena has lost that 1v1 well and truly. Forgiven doing some serious work now. Jankos, Forgiven going forward. Forgiven getting it done. Another rocket jump. He's looking for Loken. He wants to get that finish off. It's a triple kill for Forgiven, and he wants another one. Loken may not give it to him, though. Oh, there it is, the quadra kill. For some reason, Loken has a break in stride. He opts to go for a Q, and, well, Forgiven will just pick that one up.
And I think the replay will confirm, but I believe that was a delayed pentakill. Remember, he got the first kill on Cassidy, and before that all started, Forgiven was the real story that we don't know how Crazy was caught. Died with Flash and Zonia's available. But after that fight, Forgiven actually off-screen was 1v1ing this Fed Rise and took it out. Here we're going to see the replay. Forgiven just goes for turret damage.
Oh my god.
In this particular situation, and just dunked Cassidy. There's no other way way to put it. Did not expect the damage. H2K could win off this.
They could push forward. These death times are still so high. They're looking for that Nexus, and Crazy puts himself in the middle. It's Azonya's up, but it's not really going to be enough for Force Pulse as he tries to back away with his tail between his legs. The sheepish squad of ever have to look at this one and try and keep themselves in. Key gets the headbutt, pushing for even back, but they're looking at the Nexus. Forgiven there, gets the kill towards Crazy. Here's Rise, though. He gets in there. Vander, Jankos around the side. They're trying to finish this one off, and he is trying to hold it back, but no! H2K are going to take it to a game 3.
Insane ending. H2K, they ran the early game. It looked like they were going to be tied up by Ever. It looked like it was going to be a quick 2-0, but their death timers are so damn long. Forgiven is the hero. Forgiven has just been a structure pusher for the majority of the first 4 games, but this game, that last team fight, this is why you pay the big bucks. This is why you take the risk on the guy with the competitive ruling just 4 months ago. Cleaned up that fight with a plum, killed Caston, just did damage that Caston didn't even expect could be possible, and got them the win, and we're all square, and we may have a European team at the final after all.
Unbelievable. Really, I cannot believe what we saw in those last few moments. Like you said, it was Ever making a paradigm shift from a more of a passive team to then starting to push forward, but the biggest shift definitely was coming from Forgiven there as well. Incredible stuff from him. I mean, we could harp on this one as well, but I know, of course, our experts over the desk will break this one down in just a second. But, of course, I mean, your thoughts here. I mean, you said it was all about Forgiven there as well. We're seeing a bit of a different side of him. Like, they're keeping him back as a secret weapon. I mean, is this a confidence thing? Is he going to be more aggressive now, do you possibly think? Or is it just use the panic button when you need to win the game?
I think the confidence is certainly going to be there, and the question marks will be over, specifically Crazy. He died in a situation he should never have died. He's Cassidon. He has Zonias. He died with his flash up. This is a patch where death timers are insane between 10 and 43 minutes. The death timers proved important. Remember, they just ran down mid and basically finished the game, won a team fight purely off Cassidon, misfiring after some smart play from the first 35 minutes from Crazy.
Well, there you have it. Ever have let it slip, and it will be a game 3 H2K. Very, very impressive. Let's pass over to our experts now as well, because I'm sure there's plenty to sink their teeth into.
And so there we have it. We spent some time talking about Forgiven. Is it really that he's gotten worse or whatever? And he's like, you know what? I think it's about time that I make sure we win. Cleans up that fight. Of course, I mean, early on, H2K was playing very well. It was more credit to Ever if they were able to take that game towards the end, how they pulled together, how they were able to last that long with the composition they had.
Yeah, I mean, I think the call out from Yamato Ken with no one can 1-on-9 anymore, I think it doesn't hold true anymore. So Forgiven had something to prove, and that guy just played really well. And then, of course, Elise. We have seen what Jenkins did in the early game to bring H2K to a point where they can actually do stuff. The thing is, Ever's team comp with the Rise and Cassidon together, the Rod of Ages comp, after 30 minutes, they shouldn't be allowed to lose team fights, actually. And Forgiven actually turned everything around with that super aggressive move. And, yeah, H2K just won.
I feel like the biggest reason I questioned the Cassidon with the flexibility, which I didn't really see until they did it or until Dexter mentioned it, the problem with what I have with the Rise and the Cassidon, the same composition against the Elise. You're playing into a stronger jungler. It is going to be very, very hard to stay alive against something like the Fizz or the Lissandra because they are perfect to set those ganks up. But what kept them in the game throughout was the fact that Cassidon's passive and the fact that magic resistance was very, very efficient towards the H2K composition. That's why I also questioned the Fizz a bit. I wanted to see the Assassin, but in the end, Forgiven took it home.
Likewise, just kind of piggyback on the back half of that, the fact that you have Cassidon, that you have Rise, and like you said, Fizz and Lissandra feeding well into those lanes. We talk about Ever needing to create a strong side of the map, and yeah, they had their bot lane with the Callisto and the Alistar, and they worked together, but I think they kind of sacrificed a bit more of their strength and that flex pick there.
Also on this patch, double tier has always been criticized to be fairly low in terms of scaling, and especially on this patch where it's shorter game times, it's a lot harder to actually pull it off. So I think there might have been a small miscalculation or something from Ever's part. Maybe didn't even take it into consideration that there might be too much pressure from the Elise in the early game to compensate. But overall, I think if Ever pulls it together, they probably know what they did wrong, that they need to have maybe an even stronger side and maybe a better match up in the top lane or mid lane to compensate for the slow scaling. I think they should be fine for the next game.
It could be. I mean, this is an interesting series definitely so far because of the fact that game 1, Ever shows us what they're made of. Game 2, we see H2K kind of fixing up the parts they needed in the picks and bans and then pulling together those win conditions they needed. Now it's down to game 3. Who's going to take it between these two teams? We'll find out right after this.
G2A.com, the best video game store ever! Fast as lightning, solid as a rock, cheap as duck. What's more, you can sell on it because it's also a marketplace. Remember G2A.com, the best video game store ever!
And we're down to one last game. Game 3 between these two teams. It is H2K going up against Ever. And who's going to close it out? We've seen really good performances from both sides. And it wasn't because one team faltered or anything. It really is credit to both and their wins. Now, who's going to get the edge in Game 3? As we wait for the picks and bans, I want to pose a question. I mean, what do you think is going to be the highest contention so far between these two teams?
It's like right off the bat, I feel like in the previous game, they skipped the Bard ban and it didn't come through. So I feel like in this particular game, on blue side, I feel like what needs to be done, just ban out the Kassadin, ban out the Ryze once again, and ban out the Mundo as well. First pick Lissandra. There you go. Beautiful. Because Lissandra has been super powerful here.
Lissandra did have a big role, of course, on both sides, so we'll have to wait and find out how it works out. There's the winning moment from H2K from Game 2, and you can just see how much they wanted that win, because they were winning in the beginning, and then it seemed to drag out just a little bit longer towards the end, and they might have been quite worried, especially after their inhibitor got pushed in, and I'm sure there were a lot of doubts and thoughts going through H2K. You say Lissandra, ban out kind of the other strong champions we've mentioned. Dexter, what about you? You really think that if you leave Bard open, they'll pass on it again?
I mean, the thing is, Bard, the one weakness Bard has right now, he's not a flex pick. And Shen and both Trundle have been like really good to flex, and Ever has been showing that they're really good with dealing with that. And they're on red side again, so they can hide that all the way down again to like the last pick.
They could.
But I think they're going to adapt, if they pick the Ryze, they're going to adapt to that change that they not run into the same issue as having a double tier.
Right.
Whereas I think that Ever should probably pick up the Ryze again, and maybe it should even be banned away if H2K is not comfortable playing it or playing against it.
But to be fair, H2K first game on blue side, they did ban out the Ryze. Yeah. So they have paid attention to the Ryze powerhouse that we've seen in this tournament.
He almost won on 3 at the bot lane. He was like full strong. So like, if you do one mistake, the game is over basically.
Yeah.
So
pretty much,
it's pretty hard.
Yeah, we were starting to see that power come through. So we are in the bans and okay.
Tristana his Trundle. Okay.
All right. Ever choosing to get rid of that Tristana. They didn't like what Forgiven was able to do with that. The pressure he put on the map, on top of course, a super play towards the end, getting that
which opens up the Ryze, because there's not enough AD carries right now with a lot of range that Forgiven plays. So if they would pick the Ryze, then they would have something to deal with that long range. Like, the problem of long range is no longer an issue then. And okay, there's the Ryze ban. I'm happy about that, but it opens up the Mundo, which should be pretty much insta-locked here, I think.
I feel like Lissandra is just so important.
Lissandra?
Yeah. Like the jungle pool is open, and H2K in the past, in this tournament, have proven that, or shown that they don't really prioritize the Mundo as hard. Janko's even referring back to the tweet, Mundo overrated,
okay.
So why not go to Lissandra?
You predicted, yeah, okay.
And it's like, I actually thought H2K was on blue side, so like, what I said earlier makes absolutely no sense.
Right. Well, Ever on the blue side for this third game, staying with the same size they had in Game 2. So
Lissandra, yeah. I mean,
do you think Jankos just goes for the Elise again then?
He should. I mean, I don't think he's gonna just default to Mundo, just straight up pick it, because he hasn't done it the entire tournament, and it would be like too much of a change in terms of playstyle and drafting.
We have to assume H2K are going to opt in for the Shen, because both times when Shen has been picked as the flex pick on the red side, it's been super, super powerful as well.
Okay. All right. Well, they are definitely taking their time, trying to run through the other options. That Lissandra being the highlight of this matchup. And as we've said, I mean, it's kind of been different every series. What champion or which champion are the two teams in each match focusing on? This time around, Lissandra takes the stage. Will be picked up. Oh, and Janko's coming over, being convinced now about the Mundo trade.
I like the Kassadin pick, actually.
Yeah? Okay.
Because it takes away the... I think Ever could have taken Kassadin too, because right now they actually took like away the Fizz, and we know that Rio has like problems with his champion pool. What would he have picked against the Kassadin then? And if it doesn't work, there's nothing left, right?
It is like, speaking of Ryu, it's like he busted out the Anivia earlier, and we were not convinced. I was not convinced. I'm going to just speak for myself. And then like he went back to his oldies, good old oldies, like the Lulu, the LeBlanc, and we can see Ryu show up. But that champion pool is not good until Kassadin. So with that in mind, picking up Kassadin here should be fine. But what is Athena going to pick into it? I hope he's going to pick some AD assassin, pretty much.
So I was switching it up a bit from going for like a bit too much scaling to like mid-game power spike right now.
Right.
In Lissandra, that should give enough pressure already in the mid to early game that they can just go for like a more scaling pick in the two other picks right now, and they overcome the issue that they faced in game 2.
I just think it's odd, kind of quickly touch on Ever's champions like taking the Lee Sin as well as the Alistar. The fact that flex picks have been so potent and powerful in this draft phase to make sure that people are getting the matchups that they want and holding that off to the last second. And Aries kind of falling back and going, saying, I'm going to be a playmaker in this early game, which, I mean, traditionally during the Kespa Cup, his more playmaking champion was Rek'Sai, and then quickly followed by Elise. Not that he can't play Lee Sin, but didn't have the best track record on it. So I think that's a little bit odd to kind of shift away from this. Like, you could still play the Shin here. I mean, it's not awful to pick up Alistar, but to have that flex available.
There's the Shen. Shen has like really good synergy with Kassadin and 2 together, simply because we always talk about when you play Shen and Kassadin in the same team, you set up the 1-3-1 with Kassadin and Shen backing each other off and making plays over the map with an advantage. Also, it's really important to know that if you look in that Lissandra and you want to flex it, I think going for an Elise would have been a mistake because it would have provided too much magic damage. So I think Lee Sin being here, like, it's the correct choice to pick Lee Sin here.
Very surprised to see the Sivir lock-in in this particular patch, simply because the potency...
It's the wave clear, because you got to cast it.
It's like, sure, wave flip makes sense, and of course they're going to last pick the top lane, so that is going to be the pressure point, but that leaves up the super powerful Vayne.
On 5.23, yep.
Because like the issue with Vayne is the fact that she's not going to get through lane phase against a lot of AD carries, and Sivir can't do much against Vayne, so I'm happy we get to see Vayne in this game.
And
just
again,
lock it in.
5.23, it's the patch where the double Zeal items are incredibly potent, so attack speed Vayne is very powerful in this patch.
Mentioned that at the beginning of the weekend, and what is this, an Ahri being
Vayne is actually by far the best pick here. It's like 2 tanks, you have no problems with dealing with Mundo in late game, give the Vayne the free laning phase, even if you lane swap against that, sure, Vayne gets her farm regardless. That's like the only issue Vayne faces right now, that she's like being punished too hard by the likes of Misfortune.
Right. Yeah, it was funny because, you know, they hovered over Calista and then instantly they were just like, oh, wait.
No,
yeah,
it's like Vayne.
Okay, yeah, Vayne. Yeah,
Vayne.
Yeah, didn't really think about that.
It's like, looking at this Ahri, this is also a first one that we see in this tournament. I actually dislike Ahri because she doesn't really have... It's like, I feel like a champion that you could just pick safely in mid is like something like the Orianna. Maybe it's like a steal away from Ryu because we were talking about this champion pool early and Ahri is a part of that, but I feel like she's going to opt in. And like, even though looking at H2K side, Kassadin is picked, and Kassadin is considered super strong into Ahri, so the Ahri does not make a lot of sense for me.
Okay.
There's a lot of backline threat, to be honest. It's like you have 2 assassins with a Lee Sin diving into the backline, and...
Mundo going top.
Mundo's going top. Okay.
Spirit Visage Mundo.
Spirit Mundo is... Sure. But that's fine, I think. It's like, you know, Lissandra's going top, and Mundo's unkillable the second he gets his first item.
Yeah.
It's just like gonna be completely fine matchup, and overall I think that the Vayne is gonna be like the story of this game if she actually manages to like get the 2 items. She's gonna tear through like the whole team fight pretty much, and also Vayne into Rek'Sai. If you've ever played Rek'Sai into Vayne, you know how frustrating it is. You can't do anything.
Yeah, I mean, it does seem like it is all eyes on Vayne, and that's usually how it goes when a team picks Vayne in any meta, just the way that champion is built. Fruskrim, what about your final thoughts on this Ever lineup?
I feel like this is kind of falling back to what Ever did in the Kespa Cup. Everyone talks about Key. I talked about Athena. Crazy's gone out of control before, although kind of messed up last game. But Loken is actually a very solid AD carry. And to see him kind of go back to that hard carry position, I actually think this is what really pushed Ever over the top and solidified themselves as a top-tier team. It's not just one threat. It's not 2 threats. It's across the board. They are a roster full of talent, and Loken gets to prove that now against Forgiven.
All right, yeah, this is his chance and could be his only chance in the Intel Extreme Masters to prove it. It is the last game between these 2 teams. We'll find out who takes the win right after this.
Welcome back again, ladies and gentlemen, to this second semi-final here at IEM Cologne. And as we see the coaches depart the stage itself is set. The Greek god himself, Forgiven, has established his presence, and Loken has locked in Vane for what is sure to be a very, very interesting match.
If European fans believe in miracles, this could be our 4th reverse sweep of the weekend. That is the reality we're facing. The European fans would love to see H2K in the final. It's all about Loken. That's really the only narrative we can have here. If this Vane can pick up those big items, there's one champion in the game that can deal with a fair Dr. Mundo. Okay, it's no mean task, but the potential's there for the Vane to take over this game.
The man who is the subject of a great deal of scrutiny right now, Loken, who's pretty much stuck to his Callista. And of course, now we'll be going over towards that Vane, and everyone waits with bated breath to see exactly what he can do. Of course, Forgiven now on that Sivir here as well. I mean, not going to be so easy to put that pressure on Loken early on here. Is definitely something the analyst touched on.
But if Forgiven deserves anything, it's absolutely the benefit of the doubt. After single-handedly pulling a rabbit out of the hat, winning that game last game. We're talking about a late game, fully stacked, fully ready to go. Cassidy and Rise completely outmaneuvered by Forgiven's Tristana. As you mentioned, it's on the Sivir champion, of course, that he has a lot of amusing memes and history with.
Yes.
It's basically to help his teammates here. He's got the good wave clear, so if there's lane swaps on the early situation can push in, but it's well pointed out by the analyst desk. Not a good matchup post-6 or post-Blade the Ruined King. Or I guess in this situation, a couple of Zeal items probably going to be coming through from Vane rather than necessarily the Blade the Ruined King. The standard build we see, especially on patch 523, is double energized items. Static Shiv, Rapid Fire in some order into the Infinity Edge. Those 3 items in, even Mundo with an armor item or 2 will have to quiver in fear at the sight of Loken.
H2K looking a little bit uncertain, actually, in their movements here. A bit of back and forth. Let's see now if it's going to be standard lane assignments. It does appear, for all intents and purposes, to be just that. So, to see now how things actually do develop for, obviously, Loken early on in the piece, and whether H2K can really apply meaningful pressure. And we'll be taking away those Krugs there, as well as Ares finishes off the Crump. We're off and rolling here on towards the Rift. Of course, ladies and gentlemen, the winner of this game will be meeting QG in that grand final. Wouldn't that be an impressive sight to see? Tomorrow's going to be an incredible day, but today is far from done. And we have Forgiven and Vander make their way towards bot.
And we're hoping to see another excellent game to cap up what has been kind of the series that everyone was looking for on patch 523. 2 teams that understand the patch, 2 teams that understand the meta, and we're both practicing and both at times have looked very, very strong. Vander takes a bit of trade damage.
Boomerang Blade for Forgiven there is going to give him the edge and damage, and Loken is forced to back off. It was a Shadow Dash that wasn't quite connected towards Key, although Vorpal Blade has left its mark, and it's been a fairly hardy trade, but H2K seeming to come out on top early.
Whatever they talk about the matchup, at the early levels, with the Ricochet at level 1 into the Boomerang Blade, the trades will squarely be in the advantage of Sivir early. And let's talk about the other matchups, also mentioned by the analyst desk. In mid lane, I can see a Rek'Sai, but it doesn't look like it's going to pay off. Cassidy has always been considered a good matchup into Ahri. They've opted into Ahri. You can only assume, you look at this matchup and you're like, okay, why choose the Ahri in here? There were many other options, an AD Assassin, for example. The only thing I can gather, what does Ahri provide? She provides decent backline threat, but more reliably, wave clear. Lissandra, Ahri, both strong wave clear. So I'm thinking the thought process from Everheal is whatever happens in the early game, whether it's lots of turrets being pushed down, which we saw in both previous games, whether it's the Vane falling behind. If you run reliable wave clear in other areas, it buys time for Vane to get her items, because 3-item Vane is what is needed forever as Ares. Not going to quite be caught by Jankos.
Early aggression there from Jankos, which has definitely become his calling card. Not just over this last series, but of course in general. Isn't going to find Ares there, of course, but both of those junglers getting a little bit of a snippet of each other, at least knowing where they are both at as they do want to track each other across. And Crazy, again, we talked about this. What does Crazy do up against Mundo? You said just farms, tries to harass a bit, but mostly just trying to build up with a fairly smooth early game.
And that's the thing. They were flexible enough with their draft to say Mundo to the top lane, and against Lissandra, it's a great choice. You get Spirit Visage, of course, one of Mundo's absolute core items. Whatever the state of that item, you were buying it on Dr. Mundo. And there's no kill pressure from Crazy. Absolutely zero. Doesn't matter if he gets Morellonomicon or whatever he itemizes into. Nothing you can do to kill the Mundo. However, what does Lissandra have that trumps Mundo, and that's amazing teleport thanks, whether it's with the home guard buff at 20 minutes or previously. As here we go, Vander.
Vander being caught up there as well. Was a condemned that got him stunned. They're going to chase over towards him. Jankos is coming out from the side, and there's a teleport coming in behind. ESC might be too far forward. They're going to have to use their own teleport to get there. Oduamne flashes away. The Sonic Strike did hit it. Ares is going to get in there, but the first blood goes over towards Forgiven, but it's traded back almost as quickly as it was picked up. Ares drops down. Jankos is low. Logan gets himself a kill, and some more damage going back towards Forgiven. It's a 2v1 in favour of Ever.
Yeah, first blood goes through to Forgiven, but one kill, one assist for Vayne. It's a bigger pickup. The Vayne getting any sort of semblance of advantage this early into the lane that will eventually swing. And to say it swings, that's a bit of a misnomer. This lane goes landslide in the advantage of Vayne after a couple of items. Civ will kind of have to cower in fear and try and wave clear from afar. Ever will take it, but still, first blood, H2K.
For Loken to be able to circumvent the early game angst that you suffer as Vayne, it's going to have him laughing all the way to the bank. We'll see if he can add some more to that one there as well. Of course, coming back with a Vamp Scepter as well on top of the Doran's Blades, give him some staying power, some sticking power in that lane. Of course, Forgiven did get that kill there as well, so he's not going to be putting himself far behind. He's actually been able to pick up that B of Sword already.
And I guess this means that the build that we kind of talked about might be a bit different. You see the Vamp Scepter, there's a chance that he holds on to that, but with the Long Sword as well, Blade of the Ruined King, despite the cost increase, despite the fact that you're now spending 1,600 gold plus on an item that used to cost just 1,400. You know, changing your back timers, weaken you a bit in the early game. But Blade of the Ruined King does give that kill pressure, specifically in the split push, but does delay what was previously the 80% crit build as another initiation. We've got plenty of action on the map.
Yeah. Key misses the Pulverize, and the Spell Shield wasn't even needed for Forgiven. He's out towards the back, but they want Vander. It looks like they're going to have their dinner and eat it too. Deciding who gets it, of course. Ares actually forced to go for that last auto. Maybe some miscommunication, but still, a pick is a pick. And good aggressive jungling from Ares.
Yeah, look, the fadeaway auto attack didn't quite donate an extra 300 gold to Vayne, but the result is still another smart gank. The pink ward being used very smartly there. No way out for Vander. Shen, once he commits to the Shadow Dash, doesn't really have any other way to get out. Flash was already down for a long time. Nice, smart wraparound gank from Ares. This guy, his development, just from the start of the Kesper Cup to now, his intelligence and this shot calling has been the cornerstones of Ever's rise to prominence.
See if they can continue to rise even higher. It's Key making his way back down to the bottom lane to join with Loken, who's relishing this free time, this solitude, of course, to farm up.
Oh boy.
Get towards those spikes, but it might be something happening towards his top lane. Jankos can come in from that unexpected angle. Oduamne got Ring of Frosted for a moment there, but Crazy takes a little bit of a different avenue. They're trying to track, of course, that glacial path.
Everyone's trying to join.
He'll pick him up, I think, though. He'll be dead, unfortunately, before Ares can really even get involved in that one. It wasn't required, as his teammate was already down. So, H2K getting that one in. Jankos there is showing that he's still that aggressive early jungler. He still wants to make his presence felt.
I mean, just look at where the gold's been going. Mundo picking up a kill. Okay, it accelerates the Spirit Blizzard, but as we mentioned, Crazy's job is to teleport to other lanes. He's not realistically going to get on top of the Mundo, so maybe it won't matter. This is 523. It's worth noting that specifically Mundo's E is at full strength, so his split pushing. Whenever you leave that lane, he nukes down turret with the AD steroid and the auto attack reset that comes through from the E, so maybe meant to pay, but Lissandra has to look to other lanes because the selfish lane matchup, it's not going to go her way.
Fina now will be able to take away that blue buff here, as we did just see earlier. Gold quite even between everyone here as well, so you can factor in your kills and your CS totals, but after all of the fact, it's still fairly even Stevens in that regard. But Loken there as well on that bottom lane. We're looking to see how this balance of power does start to shift. It was level 6 for Loken and only level 5 for Forgiven. Not that really he gets much of a spike in kill pressure with his ultimate online.
Finally breathe. It's been a big difference from the other games I've casted. We've actually had a lot of kills in the early game, 5 kills now in 8 minutes. Loken, he's the big benefactor. Ahead in CS on a Sivir, remember, that's already a massive thing. It also has the kill credit, so the gold lead is going to be there squarely in the pocket of Loken. So the bot side of the map going great. The top side not going ideally, but you know, they've kind of resigned themselves to kind of opting out of just Dr. Mundo being massively strong. What will the item build be from Logan? He's going to opt out of the 80% crit. He decides he needs the life, so he decides he wants to focus on having some kill pressure onto the Sivir with the slow coming through from the Blade of the Ruined King, and just the lifesteal to deal with the likes of Cassidy and Rift walking on top. The lifesteal is always going to be important. I wouldn't have mind seeing, say, Vamp Scepter into those double 2,500 gold attack speed items, but the result, the Blade of the Ruined King, it might be more expensive, but still a decent purchase on Vayne.
A bit of self-peel as well with the active does go a long way for Loken. So we'll see now if, maybe it's going to be like a later push towards that one as well. He just seems to be set on that one. Obviously, once you do have that Blade of the Ruined King, things start to get a little bit smoother on that vein. And Forgiven, he's got like Caulfield's Warhammer now coming into the mixer as well. He's by no means at all being left behind. He's about 200 gold, I think it was a moment ago, behind Loken as well. So he's still, priming himself up to be a factor. But of course, when his ultimate comes into play, he's not going to be the main focus of things here.
Just watching some trades in the mid lane. Not going to get anything as far as we can see is Eris. Siv's a champion that does synergize well with Essence Reaver, does build up that cooldown reduction. Just cooldown reduction not quite as key a statistic compared to a champion like Lucian's, why she's kind of fallen to the wayside after a lot of incidental nerfs towards her kid as well. But definitely picked for comp here as Forgiven, is crazy, hanging on the back foot and then some.
The footwork. I don't really know if Lissandra has feet, but he was definitely dancing around there from Oda1 as well. So frustrations, Oda1 definitely wants to shove him out of lane, and it will force a Glacial Path for Crazy as well. So you're seeing that where the balance of power truly rests in that top lane.
Despite the fact that Kassan has a decent matchup, it's still ranged versus melee in the mid lane, and that's enough for Athena to opt into an item we haven't seen this series. Of course, it is going to be the Frost Queen's claim in the mid lane is Athena.
I'll be caught here as well. Prey Seeker does go in. That's a slow from Force Pulse that really was important though. Flashes for all and sundry. It's going to be a stand Uniter coming in. Ryu almost got blown up. Ignite picks away. Athena picks up the kill. Vander backing up there as well. Ares was a little bit low. He doesn't have a lot of teammates, but there comes Key off from the sides looking for some sort of knock-up. Athena has a bit of help. Big knock-up as Vander goes over the wall, but there just was no follow-up available there for ESC to go for a second one. But Ryu, I don't think things eventuated the way he may be anticipating.
Remember, Vander used a 3-minute cooldown to be involved in that fight, and they still lost the trade. It was fast finger work coming through from Ari to use WQ, Ignite instantly on the Kassan to pick up the kill. It's a bit more gold. It probably means that we're going to see that Frost Queen's claim a little bit earlier. The efficiency of that item, almost want the spectators kind of mouse over it in 20 minutes time when this item, 113% efficient when you buy it, and then you factor in GP10, you factor in the fact that that efficiency doesn't include the spooky ghost that everyone talks about. My goodness, the value from that's immense. Is up top.
Oh, Frozen Tune towards Oda1 as well. We can see, of course, the Savism is ticking away and he's able to sustain through a lot of that damage. And now Mundo is mad and he's turning around. Not just enough damage to dissuade him from going any further forward, but that was close calls there for ESC.
I mean, that's a level 9 Mundo. That turn was a little bit scary. It reminded me of the 1v3 Rise, and that was a 40-minute Rise, not a 11-minute Mundo. So top lane might be getting out of order. Vane's got the Blade of the Ruined King, so we'll have to watch bottom lane as well. And let's see what Spooky goes into Ari's suite of assassination means for Athena's map presence.
So the peak potential is real for Ever right now, of course. Not only the Spooky Ghost, but a lot of the other things that they have to rely on, of course. Ares can get in there and dig someone out, and Crazy, well, we saw him in that game 1, always coming in from the periphery, being the other arm of that pincer and just locking people down with the Ring of Frost and Frozen Tomb. A plethora of options available to Ever if they do want to make a fight happen. So far, we do see a roam here as well from Key towards that mid lane, just to sweep it down. There's just some housework and some trailblazing to be done here.
Spooky Ghost, of course, the big factor. You just check it out. Of course, one's going to hit Ryu. You saw vision of him. But guess what? It gives you 4-second vision on that pesky jungler, maybe even 6-second vision on that pesky jungler as well. In a meta where the preseason patch forced there to be less vision, of course. Sidestone gives less vision. More permanent vision's been opted into in terms of blue trinkets over any sort of warding trinkets. The fact that every minute you can just throw out those ghosts and have that vision on the jungle is so big as Ryu.
Yeah, charmed in, and you see the amount of damage. In fact, Spirit Rush might come out for Athena. He wants to go forward, and in the top lane as well, Crazy's going to get jumped towards. He's going to be in deep, deep trouble there. Spell Shield for Forgiven, going to shrug off any damage to come away. Crazy will fall over, but still Ever have free reign to push through middle now as well. And the difference is H2K actually got that gank on between the outer and inner turrets, so they couldn't really go now for objectives after that.
And to keep pushing Ever, Kassan has to back away. He's coming in just for a bit of harass to put them down. It was interesting to see if Forgiven and the rest of H2K pushed on. No, they're actually grouping. Mundo's looking for the pincer as well. H2K are not done with this situation.
Right, but Loken is off towards the side in bottom lane. He can get here if he is required. Ares for the moment here is going to be taking away the Spirit Wolves. It is Forgiven as well. Well, this is a scene we've seen multiple times over the course of this weekend, Papa, is Forgiven just working on those turrets, adopting that more defensive mindset. But you never know. It's like a switch. You turn it on and all of a sudden H2K win a game.
It's worth knowing that he probably spotted the Blade of the Ruined King and thought it behooved him to just get the hell out of that bottom lane. This is when things get really hairy for the Sever. Usually has to just pop the ultimate and run away when Vayne ever activates her own ultimate, using that team fight ultimate for that more selfish ultimate that Vayne puts out. Seeing lots of buff transfers. Dragon's going to be completed. It's the first Dragon of the game, so it's going to be some nice little stats, but at the end of the day, game's finally poised, which is exactly what you want in this last crucial game to find out our second finalist for IEM Cologne.
Sure, we sit close to parity here between these two teams who have showed us multiple facets of themselves, and some beautiful aggression, of course, at the end of Game 2 is what got us here in the first place after ever looked so commanding. It's 4, and because of that fact, you just cannot count H2K out. Even at the deficit we saw them at. It's forgiven now. Back towards that bottom side. Essence Reaver has been completed for him there as well. Obviously, we knew he was heading in that direction. And Crazy drew the short straw. He's heading towards that bottom side now as well to get his wave clear on.
I mean, at the end of the day, Crazy's kind of in an emergency situation where she can't really walk over anywhere, Lissandra, and get free farm. She's well behind her lane opponent in Mundo. It was 30 CS not a moment ago. Now starting to catch up a bit, but have to take the support there. And now we're starting to see a preview of a very important duel in the future, the Vayne and Mundo in the same lane. Everyone's swapping around. Siva trying to avoid the Vayne. Lissandra trying to ideally avoid everyone and just farm, but probably not going to get lucky with that one. Ares has to be careful, and here's another initiation.
And again, Standing United coming in as well, just to get Vander on site, but a teleport coming in, and Odoamne has to be careful. He does get knocked up. All the Sonic Wave's not going to hit, but he does get frozen too. And Loken doing exactly what he wanted to do from the very beginning. He claims Odoamne.
Not done.
And if that's any foreshadowing of what we'll see later on, that's scary.
By the end of the day, remember, the objective looks like it's being designated in bot lane. Siva's not done, not interested in grouping, going to keep pushing. Probably going to be another global trade, although Ares going to back away. Probably going to be a trade overall, but kill on a turret, definitely ahead of the turret that Siva will easily pick up in bot.
Ever keeping themselves a half step in front at this stage, or at least able to, emulate or reciprocate H2K's movements on the other side of the map. The cross-map play has been important for them, so they're still, grouping up. They're actually going for these plays, and they're still actually able to get objectives. They don't have to sacrifice towers in favor of picks.
I mean, the big thing that we have to talk about is that Kassadin's job this game is to trade his life for Vayne. If Vayne dies, Vayne is absolutely the crown jewel of this EVA lineup. So where does Rio go with his item build? There's two schools of thought. Do you go for the Zonius to give yourself a bit of armor, but crucially, an aggro reset when you dive into the backline? Or do you go for the Lich Bane for the potential one-shot, but then truly condemning yourself that if you ever miss it, or condemn is probably an apt word there, or if you ever get put down, speaking of put down,
interesting thing from Athena going forward there. The Shadow Dash out from Vander is actually going to keep Ares just a step behind or so. Athena going very, very low there until the hunt being used. It's going to be a teleport coming in from the middle. Ares actually flashed already. It's a double knockout, but Jankos has one of his own, and Ares does fall down. Athena now going to be the next target. He just flashes behind his tower. The Ricochet will not claim his life, but the Force Pulse does. Riga goes very, very deep. He comes out with a kill. Good little play there as well. Loken is still alive. He's full health, but the fight won't continue any further. It's a 3-for-1 in favor of H2K.
Yeah, Lissandra burns down on the back end as well to the Ignite. Loken was not grouped. Not sure if he's going for red, not wearing the buff not being up. Obviously, was just farming in the bot lane. Missed the action. So much of this early game was centered around getting Loken ahead that when the team was forced to fight 5v4, it was even worse than expected. And Loken picks up a kill on the back end, but we'll need to watch his positioning for future fights.
Absolutely. H2K. Bit of a burst of aggression there as well, yielding results. Definitely, gold as well. You look at it now, Ever still a turret up, but it's just the 1k between the two of them here. H2K as well, definitely not bowing down. Definitely not even giving a remote indication that they're falling behind. You can look here over the kills as well. A decent spread for H2K with 2 going towards Ryu, and you've got to wonder what his inclination is going to be going forward, of course. It looks like it might even be Abyssal Scepter, the next stop for him.
Yeah, he's against double AP, so probably force into the Abyssal Scepter. It's still one of the most efficient items on this patch. With so many AP items nerfed, there was actually a small buff to Abyssal Scepter, specifically in terms of cost. So Abyssal Scepter is right next to Rod of Ages. It's another thing about Kassadin, you can build this hyper-efficient build compared to what other AP champions are forced into. The fact that a support item's the most efficient, that's probably the bizarre thing. That'll be adjusted in a few future patches, but regardless, efficiency abound for both Athena and Ryu in their AP item pickups.
Like you said, Abyssals, at least for Athena, and eventually for Ryu there. Spooky going out just to gain some intelligence here, and Crazy as well. He's
spotted out,
pushing forward. Yeah, noticed by multiple wards there as well. As the blue trinket went down in that side brush, but ESC don't seem deterred by that. They're pushing forward, and this tower is so low after that. Crazy wants to go forward, and Forgiven just gets obliterated, completely disintegrated there, of course, with the Frozen Tomb coming down. Easiest pick you're going to see, I think, in this game, and ever forge ahead.
Now, they don't have Vayne, but Vayne's going to be grouping soon. They're not going to get a lot of turret damage on it. It's a nice pick. Spell Shield was baited out, absolutely assassinated. Loken once again not with the team, but slowly grouping.
Well, luckily they didn't need him there, that's all I'm going to say. He's sauntering up towards the rest of his team, and now ESC have established a little bit of a hold here. They've got everyone pushed forward. It's only 19 minutes in, but they look like they want to go for this inhibitor turret. And with Forgiven down, this could be just the right time. They've already got it down towards half health, and H2K not showing any sort of desire to come forward or get involved in some sort of fight, but Forgiven is back. Key trying to back away here. H2K, maybe a championship cup to the head of one of these guys might be the signal for H2K to go in, as it is Key being slowed up constantly every single time. Yet again, Force Pulse being used to slow him up as well. I'm thinking of trying to charm out. This could get a little bit nasty here. H2K finally decide to cease and desist.
Worth knowing that H2K now with Forgiven grouping don't have the Sivir ultimate. It was already popped, so it was probably just posturing, trying to get map control, maybe looking to pick up the answering dragon. We talked about the fact that the first dragon is certainly the most crucial one, with the games being going short. Let's pick up those 6% stats and kind of go from there. It turns into team deathmatch after that, apart from maybe contesting the Baron, as Dragon not so much concerned. Spooky goes, pops again.
Crazy wants to come forward. It's a flash, but well-placed spell shield from Forgiven to avoid some of that damage. He does take a little bit, but Athena now coming forward. It was Summoner Heal also popped by Forgiven to give him a bit of extra move speed. He does get out, but Jankos now has to be careful. ESC are close by as well, and they're wanting to try and close the gap and put the stranglehold on H2K. The Europeans definitely biting back, definitely got plenty of moxie about them here, as Odoamne as well wants to stand near this dragon and try and put these guys off it.
And the biggest factor there was a pick would have meant killing that inhibitor, which they haven't been able to take down just yet. Seeing a lot of posturing over Dragon. Looks like both teams are confident to fight, because it's only the first Dragon for H2K and the second one forever.
Here's the turn. Everyone grouped up, and now they go forward. It's a Dragon kick towards Odoamne. He's back out towards the side, and Loken, he's exhausted, but he's still a presence. He's still able to do some damage. Now Ryu, he goes down. Loken's there, but Odoamne looking to pick him up. No, Odoamne just goes down now. Jankos is in hot pursuit here. It was a 2v2 from what we could see. Vanna and Jankos very, very low, but it was Ever pulling the pin on that one, getting out, and H2K came away with the Dragon.
Yeah, both MVPs go down. We talked about the crucial matchup in late game team fights. Can Ryu get on top of Loken? Both those people go down. Crucially, Forgiven picks up a bit of gold. Ever clearly wanted to fight because they were contesting this Dragon. As we watch the replay, it's all about Loken. The exhaust, it buys time for the other members to do damage. And then Loken goes super aggressive, flashes on to kill the Kassadin, and ends up trading his life. Is it worth it? Bit of a line ball on that one, given how much gold is on Loken. I don't want to see Loken using his flash offensively like that, just because Kassadin, he's happy to trade flashes later in the game. He's ironically going to have his flash up, and then all that mobility from Riftwall.
Very, very aggressive stuff from Loken there. He definitely had Ryu in his sights, but it may have cost him more than it gained now at this stage. As H2K, a moment to sojourn here towards the top side now as they work their way on towards those minion waves, pushing in. Void Rush being used here by Jankos as well, getting back in position as a theme as well. A deep breath and a sigh almost is heard over Summoner's Rift.
The big thing we've talked about Loken is he's a positioning-based carry. It's why he favors the Kalista. It's such a strong champion with positioning. He was bouncing around in the first game, which led him to live in a last Titanic team fight. Vayne's another champion that can really make use of that mobility. So in this situation, 5-1 and 2, look, we'll give him a pass on the one aggressive move, but I hope it is just a thing of the past, because he cannot afford to do that with Ryu soon to stack on another form of ability power and look for the one shot onto this Vayne.
So it is in that direction. He wants to get that damage down. Might not be that Zhonya's that he's looking for. Just some more hard-hitting backline potential for Ryu, who so far has had a decent game. There's no doubt that he's been garnering a lot of respect from Ever here as well. His presence is undeniable to such extent that Loken will throw himself into the fire and flames to pick him up. But again, more grouping here as well. We'll note that Crazy and Odoamne, both bottom side, both have teleports available.
And look, we talked about Forgiven on this Sivir. Despite the fact that he has that horrible 1v1 matchup against Vayne, he's swapped around. Smartly, H2K have swapped around, ensuring that beyond the Blade of the Ruin King, we've never actually seen a 1v1 side lane matchup, farming matchup between the Sivir and the Vayne. And the Sivir was the big benefactor of that previous fight. Picked up 2 kills, suddenly 3-1 and 4, suddenly 20 CS up, and now completed the second item on top of the Essence Reaver. This Sivir is starting to get respectable and being another threat with this CDR, meaning that they can consistently fish for picks with that ult.
Speaking of which, it was Ares just avoiding a big slow there from Ryu. Jumping forward, H2K now, hackles are up a bit. They know Ever is trying to set up shop in their jungle, and they're not going to have anything of it. The eviction crew is moving out now as Odo and Vander as well. Obviously the front line is here for H2K, just pushing on out, and Athena heading towards the top side. So Ever content at this stage to just split for a bit and make the picks. Of course, Athena doesn't have teleport here and has to be careful. There are, of course, Ryu and Yankos close to that top lane, but Spooky Ghost, so good.
And realistically, I think Ever's just going to wait out the flash timer on Vayne. There's no point starting an engage where Ryu can just come out of the darkness and take a pick instantly with no flash Vayne. So just buying time here. It's probably going to be a 10 flash next fight, which means the outplay potential is through the roof, which is always good to watch here. Ever have rotated to top. There is teleport on both laners in the bottom lane. We might see another fight.
A lot of wards here in that jungle for Ever, so they know if H2K was going to try and come around. It was through all the hunt being used there, and Ares just tries to get himself away. Praise Seeker, of course, no CC on that for old mate Yankos, and it's not going to yield him any opportunities. But Ryu being spotted now as well. So Ever know if anyone's going to try and flank or pincer them, they've already done their homework, they've dotted their I's and they've crossed their T's, and they're happy enough to be here. They're going to stay and try and push more in.
Logan's about 5 to 10 seconds away from his flash. Remember, with all that CDR, it's not actually that long till the ultimate, the On the Hunt, is available for Forgiven. It's about halfway off cooldown. But we won't see an engage on either side. Credit to Lissandra actually staying competitive in the bottom lane, not getting chunked out, matching the wave clear in bot. Level behind and so much gold behind is crazy. There's not much he can do. Honestly, both these champions just waiting for a chance for the teleport flank.
They're both just a bit of bluffing, bit of back and forth as well. That was interesting stuff there, of course, and Ever did eventually back away, of course. When you've got a Cassidy on the enemy team, you do need to ward your periphery quite heavy, so you have early warning, of course, of his presence and then can respond accordingly. So we see the side, maybe a little bit of a tenuous situation. We back away. Athena gets his blue buff. Some more items are going to come into the mix, of course. It's Lord Dominic's Regards being picked up for Loken. Got to give him that extra damage, of course, against opponents with greater maximum health than him.
I guess it's one of those situations where once you've committed to the Blade of the Ruin King, the 80% crit build kind of goes out the window. Honestly, I think that does more damage pound for pound. I think you spent a lot of gold on sort of being able to kill a Mundo faster, but crucially taking longer to kill the Squishier member, specifically Ryu, who you know is inevitably going to be in your face for the majority of these fights. So I think the jury's kind of out, I believe, on 524 when the double charged items, i.e. the Static Shiv and the Rapid Fire, don't stack. Absolutely start to investigate other builds, but I think losing out on what is, I believe, 8,800 gold God build, because 80% crit Vayne with Infinity Edge does so much damage. Missing out on that for this kind of piecemeal build, I think, is just a bit of a misstep from Loken.
Let's see now, it's 5-1-2, so despite the fact he's managed to coast fairly well through, but of course now On the Hunt is happening. Loken does get stunned up pretty quickly. It's an exhaust towards him, but he's able to get away from all this attention. Yankos is forced to get back. Loken's still on his feet, and Oduamne now being a subject of focus. It's crazy. He's coming forward. Oduamne drops, and that is a crucial cornerstone of H2K's team and team fight. They give up the inhibitor.
And crazy, the person who led his team down last game, dying on Cassidy, was much smarter on the ult trigger finger. The moment Ryu Rift walked in, ult him to ensure that no one gets on top of Loken. And although Loken had to change target multiple times, he lived, he took down the Mundo. That means a dragon, and that's just going to be a preview of what is going to be some insane fights when you throw in the likes of QSS and other variables later in this game.
Inhibitor is down. Dragon is taken away. It's a 3-turret lead for Ever, and the gold really not too much, of course, about 4k if I'm doing my maths fairly averagely there as well. But, you know, we're going to that fight to think about what Loken's going to do, how his build works out. Good response there from Ever as well to keep him nice and healthy, despite Vander jumping right on his face.
Interesting to see where he goes with this BF sword. The first guess would be Infinity Edge, just to really start piling on the damage. Bloodthirster, if he just wants to aggress. Honestly, if he's flashing aggressively, Bloodthirster is not the worst idea, just because then suddenly you have a massive lifesteal in a patch where AD carries usually have, what, 0 lifesteal to about 4 or 5 items. If you're sitting on 35% lifesteal, you can shrug off a bit of that Cassidy damage when you pair it with even a modicum of magic resist from the likes of a QSS, but I don't think you have that luxury against the Mundo, so I'd understand the Bloodthirster, but I think you need Infinity Edge just to really condemn whichever of the front line to death.
Right now, ESC, you can see they can group towards his bottom turret as well. And I mean, H2K is scuffling to try and get in position to defend this one quickly enough. It's a 3-1-1 split.
See Kasten.
Oh dear, Ryu going forward. There's a frozen tomb and he's getting the heck out of dodge. You can see that Crazy knows exactly where he sits on the food chain right now.
But he does have teleport and Kassadin does not. So unless Kassadin takes down a turret, remember it doesn't have Lich Bane, so do it fairly swiftly with the auto attack reset on W, but not instantly like he would do. Nuking it down with Lich Bane. It's not the worst play strategically, and that's why Kassadin has to back, because they really need to shuffle the deck right here, H2K, with an inhibitor down, with how long death timers are. Remember, on this patch, longer till 43 minutes than previously. Others death timers. Ryu's looking for an angle. Not going to quite get the initiation, and yeah, they die here. If H2K get wiped, EVER will go to the finals.
30 minutes in, of course. Only the one inhibitor down, so you wouldn't exactly call their base in tatters, but that's just now how oppressive those death timers are. You have to play around that here as well, and you can see the H2K was not willing to go forward to try and defend that tower. They actually gave it up knowing that it was just too risky right now for them to go for something like that. Spooky Ghost in, all in sundries. 4 seconds of slow, of course, and Yankos has to shrug that one off with frustration.
It's just so annoying, especially if you get a lead as a mid laner, as Ari did in this game. It just means that if you're jungler, just sitting there killing those innocent jungle minions, as you do, it's a little bit awful, but that's just a reality of League of Legends. Yeah. And then you get spotted and you're like, oh, it's almost like back in Season 1 when you were clairvoyant, on that shorter cooldown, they could just track your path through the jungle. Feels like that again, because you're just like, there's no real counterplay. I'm just trying to kill these minions over here, guys.
And the thing is, you have to play differently as a jungler if you know that the enemy knows where you are. Oh, quickly there. Loken sees Shankos, and the damage is real right now. You can see Vander gets involved as well, and so much has been committed towards this fight. ESC just want to come forward and push H2K in, and they are in a full-scale rout right now. Not even a step back. They've turned tail and run.
And this is the Vayne we'll see going forward. This is the Vayne that can actually be an indication of future Vayne, just because there are no double charged items here. This is a standard Vayne build. Athena's kind of coming up for backup. Odoamne is going to have to look for a flank. Another turret will go down, but not the second breaking of the base that will probably be the death knell for H2K.
I guess H2K now looking to forgive and saying, hey, you know what you did that last game? Can you just quickly do that again now? Because again, EVER pushing forward now, and an inhibitor turret going down. You can see the on the hunt being used, but to what end? What follow-up? Vander goes in. It's a charge on towards Crazy. Yeah, brilliant, but he does use the Zonyas. He gets through it. Key now as well. Ryu in the back line. Can't get onto anyone here, and EVER sustaining through. A bit of back and forth, a bit of poke. Crazy there as well going forward. Ult himself. Never seen him do that before. Good work. Yankos goes down, and look at the catch as well. Ring of Frost perfectly used there. Key is going to be able to knock Odoamne back. It's back and forth. Forgiven. Vander's going to come back into this one. EVER are super low. And it's a flash shadow dash as well. Loken though, he survives again. This guy has just gotten every break he's needed here. They push forward. It's just Forgiven. Just the one man who got H2K to this game in the first place. But it looks like he this time might not be enough. Loken flashes forward. Forgiven goes low. And they're looking at the Nexus.
Yeah, look at these Supermans. They've already been pushing. This is going to be the end of the game. EVER have done it. They were so close to a 2-0. Forgiven actually lives. That's pretty apt. He deserves that after everything. And EVER pull it off. It was the last moment. It was a wonderfully fought series strategically with plenty of highlights. But EVER, this team from Korea that could not qualify for the LCK for 2016, pull another one out, and they will meet Chaogu in an all-Asian final.
Absolutely stunning stuff here, of course, from the Korean side. H2K, before we go to the analyst desk, we don't get much chance to break this down. I do want to say, really impressive from them over the course of the weekend. Shame to see them not advancing from this point, but they've made a statement, and I honestly think they've set themselves up for a good trajectory for next year.
They made the statement yesterday where, despite what other people say, when a team with 2 days practice beats a team with a month's practice, that's already a statement. That's saying this team that on paper was looking strong, but had so little time to actually come together, credit to the coaching staff for them to be able to pick up the win over Cloud9, and then underscore that statement, put it in bold, change the typeface, get it really large, because H2K drove EVER, the team that was the first to qualify for this event, that mastered 521, that clearly had a wonderful grasp on 523 as well. They pushed them right to the brink. It took a Forgiven magic trick in Game 2 to get them to this final. They pushed them as far as they could, but EVER on the day, just by the slightest of margins, were too good.
And the funny thing is as well, when they were interviewed actually during or early on in the Casper Cup, it was actually the coach of EVER said, we'd like to get to the quarterfinals. And then they got to the grand final. Obviously, we've harped on it. You know how the story goes. And then in the end, he said, well, we didn't even think we'd be going to IEM Cologne. We haven't even thought about this yet. We were just hoping to get as far as we could. So, that wasn't even something that factored for them, of course, until it was actually a reality. They said, that it's nice to know what it feels like to be on that winner's podium here. especially after the disappointment they faced against Spenu Sonic Boom. But, I mean, QG going up against Ever in this grand final, that is just an astounding headliner for this tournament.
And whatever the result for Ever tomorrow, the stories for these 5 players